from all-round top student to chief scientist. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. Why are all the questions easy to answer? 4.5 hours is neither long nor short, but for the students taking the exam, this time does not seem to be enough. The difficulty of the CMO is not something that can be written casually. 3 questions and 4.5 hours may seem ample, but for most test takers, they still have to complain that this time is too short and not enough. Moreover, this year is an odd-numbered year. According to past practice, the questions in odd-numbered years are more difficult, while those in even-numbered years are relatively simpler. Therefore, the difficulty of this year's test questions is quite high, and some people may not even get a single point. According to common sense, as long as you take the CMO, you will at least get a bronze medal, but every year there are always a few participating candidates who cannot even get a bronze medal, because they perform very poorly on the exam. Otherwise, if you can get a bronze medal with 0 points, then this bronze medal would be too easy. In the exam hall, every student racked their brains to solve the questions. As a result, nearly all of this year's over 300 contestants were lost in deep thought. Except for a few, like Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao received his test paper and, not bothering to glance at the rest of the questions, jumped right into the first one. The first question had 2 sub-questions, and he nailed the first one instantly. After a bit of thought, Lin Xiao quickly mastered the second as well. An easy question, Lin Xiao concluded, estimating the time. He estimated it took him only 30 minutes, a task he believed would be easy for most contestants. Soon, the second question arrived. This one was a bit more interesting, considerably more challenging than the first, combining algebra, 3-dimensional coordinate systems, and geometry. However, Lin Xiao quickly figured out the underlying structure. It simply involved thinking in the order of 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, and 3 dimensions, and he quickly mastered it as well. Another easy one. Next came the third question. This one was a good one, as Lin Xiao had devised a brilliant solution. It was short and simple, but it was difficult to think through and contained numerous pitfalls. But all in all, he managed it with ease. Why are all these easy questions? This Olympiad isn't that hard, after all. Shaking his head, he thought to himself, I should be considered a formidable math expert now, right? And just like that, he finished all 3 questions on the first day. He checked the time and saw he still had 2.5 hours left. In other words, he'd only spent 2 hours scribbling on 3 problems that would have taken 4.5 hours. The students around him, on the other hand, were mostly still buried in their work, scribbling on their draft papers. Some were still struggling with the first question, others were working on the second, and a few had even made it to the third. But it was clear that the third question was quite challenging, and most of those who had reached the third question hadn't yet found their solution. You have to remember, these students were math geniuses in their own schools, considered by their classmates to be among the top 300 math prodigies nationwide among middle schools this year. But now, they seemed like ordinary test takers, tormented by the test questions. Only Lin Xiao, no matter what level of exam, was no ordinary test taker. Now accustomed to these kinds of competition questions, taking one like this was practically no problem for him. He could easily be on the test setting panel, guessing the test setters' thoughts when they came up with the questions. Finally, he took a rare half-hour to review his paper thoroughly. Once he was sure there were no problems, he stood up and handed it in. Teacher Ding wasn't around to ask if you handed it in early. Upon hearing this, all the test takers present looked at Lin Xiao, their eyes filled with surprise and confusion. Why had he handed in his paper? Had he finished? Or had he given up? Some test takers, unfazed by Lin Xiao's presence, simply returned to their papers after a brief distraction, while others grew nervous and anxious. However, these things weren't Lin Xiao's concern. The invigilators were naturally surprised to see Lin Xiao hand in his paper so early, and then, upon seeing Lin Xiao's neatly written answers, they were even more astonished. This student had actually finished all the questions in just 2.5 hours? One invigilator took a look at Lin Xiao's answers and quickly stopped looking, avoiding a literal descent into incomprehension. He couldn't understand them at all. These invigilators were all teachers at the school, not necessarily math teachers, so of course they couldn't understand a math competition like this. He could only sigh, These math experts are just one more ridiculous than the other. Lin Xiao handed in his paper and returned to the meeting point. There were barely any people there. He searched for a while before finally finding their two team coaches. To his surprise, the two math professors were playing chess. He had no idea where this chess had come from. Professor Zhang was clearly inferior to Professor Wang in skill. As Lin Xiao approached, he saw Professor Zhang use a rook to knock out Professor Wang's pawn. Then, not noticing Professor Wang's knight was nearby, he used the knight move to defeat him. Oops, I made a wrong move. Professor Zhang hurriedly tried to undo his move. Professor Wang immediately opened his hand and chuckled. No regrets after a move. Professor Zhang couldn't help but scratch his head. This was his last rook, and now it was gone. He only had one knight and two cannons left, while Professor Wang still had plenty of pieces. He looked up and saw Lin Xiao coming. His eyes lit up, and he stood up and said, "Hey, Lin Xiao, you're done with the test." Then he pushed the chessboard aside and said, "Lin Xiao is out. No more playing. This is a draw." Professor Wang was immediately furious. "Hey, you old man. I have two more rooks than you, and we can still call it a draw." Lin Xiao, watching from the side, couldn't help but laugh. He hadn't expected Professor Zhang to have such a tricky side. Professor Zhang also knew that Lin Xiao had seen him, so he kept silent about the chess and asked directly, "How did you do on the test? Were the questions difficult?" Lin Xiao said, "Not bad." "Then how did you do? How many points do you think you can get?" Lin Xiao said, "I should be able to get full marks. After all, the questions are a bit simple." "The questions are simple." The two professors looked at each other. "This year is an odd year, and the questions should be more difficult." Lin Xiao said it was simple. At this time, Professor Wang suddenly looked at the time and was stunned again. "Hey, isn't there still 2 hours before the exam is over? Why did you come out?" Lin Xiao. Little Bear spreads his hands. "JPG, I finished it, so I came out." "You finished it in 2.5 hours? Did you check it?" "I checked it for half an hour." The two professors looked at each other again. "It took you half an hour to check?" As expected of a student who got full marks in the league. Awesome. Please vote for recommendation. Chapter 27, Both Bad and Fun. They'd originally thought Lin Xiao would finish in 2.5 hours, but it turned out he'd even spent half an hour checking. To finish 3 problems in 2 hours was unheard of for the two of them. One could even say that since the inception of the Chinese Mathematical Olympiad, such a student had never appeared before. Perhaps this also meant that there had never been a student more talented than Lin Xiao. Of course, it wasn't impossible that this year's problems were easier, as Lin Xiao claimed. However, that would have to wait and see what the other team members would say after the exam. With 2 hours left, it was still quite a while, so they played chess again. Naturally, Professor Zhang's previous game was over, due to his cheating, so the two professors started a new game. However, Professor Zhang's skills were inferior to Professor Wang's, and he was losing ground. But then Lin Xiao helped him with a few moves, cleverly turning the tables. Professor Zhang then held on to Lin Xiao, insisting on his help. In reality, chess and mathematics are closely related. Professor Zhang's willingness to play chess with Professor Wang suggests he's confident in his chess skills. Unfortunately, chess skill and mathematical talent aren't linearly correlated, so Professor Zhang seems a bit of a loser in front of Professor Wang. Lin Xiao's brain development, after receiving systematic enhancements, is naturally higher than average. Furthermore, the system's improvements are comprehensive, not just focused on a single subject. Just like his memory has improved due to increased brain development, others clearly can't achieve this. Therefore, Lin Xiao's chess skills are exceptionally impressive, and he's been able to play Professor Wang back and forth. Professor Zhang finally gave up his seat and let Lin Xiao take over. And so, time passed. At 12:30, the school bell rang, signaling the end of the first day of exams. Footsteps echoed through the silent teaching building as students streamed out of the exam room, heading for their respective meeting points. When the first member of the Qin province team found Lin Xiao and his team, they saw Professor Zhang standing nearby, saying to Lin Xiao, "Hey, move here," and hit his horse. Lin Xiao ignored Professor Zhang's blind command and instead raised his cannon to pin Professor Wang's horse's leg, completing the chariot move. Professor Zhang immediately realized that Lin Xiao's move was superior, and Professor Wang angrily said, "Come on, old Zhang, stop talking. You're just a novice and a playful person," as the young people would say. Professor Zhang retorted. Then don't lose to Lin Xiao first, just watch, Professor Wang said, but seeing Lin Xiao's move, he was in a dilemma. If the chariot was gone, he would be completely at a disadvantage. When had Lin Xiao even moved the cannon there? At that moment, he glanced around and saw the other team members approaching. His eyes lit up, and he said to Lin Xiao, "All right, everyone else is here. Lin Xiao, let's call this a draw." Before Lin Xiao could say anything, Professor Zhang expressed his disdain for Professor Wang. "Are you embarrassed?" Professor Wang retorted, "How dare you say that to me?" Seeing the two professors' expressions, Lin Xiao couldn't help but hold his head in his hands. "A few days ago, weren't you two so serious? How did you reveal your true colors over a game of chess?" But he was just a youngster. What else could he say? The game naturally ended in a draw. He then cleared the chessboard while the two professors asked the team members about their thoughts after the exam. Most of them said, the first question was okay, the second was a bit of a headache, and the third was a pain in the ass. Hearing these responses, the two professors thought this was normal. Lin Xiao actually said it was easy? But Lin Xiao was a perfect scorer in the league, after all. He might really have thought it was easy. Doesn't that mean he got all three questions right today? The two professors pondered this question and found it somewhat incredible. Each question in the CMO was worth 21 points, which meant Lin Xiao had already scored 63. And considering the national team score in the odd-numbered Olympiads in previous years was always around 60, wouldn't Lin Xiao have secured a spot? This deepened the professors' appreciation for the immense talent of this mathematical genius who had achieved a perfect score in the league. They even wondered if Lin Xiao might one day become a mathematician on the level of Hu Luojian or Chen Xingxian. Regarding this question, they could only hope for the future. Oh, and this mathematical genius was also quite skilled at chess. The first day of exams ended like this. With half a day free in the afternoon, Lin Xiao naturally had nothing to do, so he continued to study advanced mathematics in the hotel. The next morning, the exam began as usual. The second question of the day, the fifth question of the competition, finally proved challenging for Lin Xiao. It was incredibly difficult, ranking among the most challenging of all the questions he had tackled. This was probably the question this year used to identify geniuses, geniuses among geniuses, or even geniuses with a cheating style. Unfortunately, Lin Xiao was that genius with a cheating style. After spending about an hour, he successfully solved it. Then came the final question, which was surprisingly easy, far less challenging than the fifth. Therefore, the fifth question should have been more appropriately placed in the sixth position. This arrangement was likely a deliberate attempt by the test setters to manipulate the students' mindsets. Perhaps some students, unable to handle the fifth question, would find the sixth more difficult and simply give up. Of course, this also tested the examinee's mental state, a common occurrence in the EMO exam. Without a good mental state, one would clearly be ill-suited for international competitions. Of course, for Lin Xiao, mental state didn't matter. It wasn't like he couldn't write it. So, after writing for about 2.5 hours, and checking it for another half an hour, for a total of 3 hours, he finished his exam today. To the astonishment of the others, he handed in his paper an hour and a half early and left the exam room. The two professors didn't ask much when they saw him emerge. Seeing his confident demeanor, they knew that this year, Qin Province would definitely have a student on the national team, perhaps even a chance. Their Qin Province hadn't had a student on the national team in 15 years. Most of those spots had been taken by strong provinces like Beijing, Shanghai, Jiangsu, Guangdong, and Hunan. The education in those places was undeniable. So, they all hoped Lin Xiao would surprise them. In fact, the two professors even regretted not being professors at Peking University or Tsinghua University. Otherwise, how great would it be if they could have Lin Xiao as their student? With this regret in mind, the two professors once again pulled Lin Xiao aside to play chess. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 6 questions, full marks again, and full marks again. As the bell rang, marking the end of the 2 CMO exams, the students handed in their papers, each looking bewildered. Who am I? Where am I? What the hell was that fifth question? When the other 11 Kin Province students were questioned by the two professors, they all lamented, "Question 5 is too hard. We can't do it." Then, they asked one another, "Huh? No one has figured it out." Suddenly, they were relieved. It seemed the question was simply too difficult. Meanwhile, the students named Wang Yang looked at Lin Xiao, who was packing up the chessboard, and wondered, when did this guy get out? Why is he playing chess with a professor again? He then asked Lin Xiao, "Did you figure out question 5? Lin Xiao glanced up at him, confirming he was being asked, and replied, "Yes." Wang Yang's eyes widened. "How did you do it? First, do this, then this, and finally this." "Got it," Lin Xiao explained the method, but Wang Yang remained completely bewildered. "What's with Walter? What about Souza? What's going on?" Finally, he gave up struggling. Asking again wouldn't make him look stupid. But inwardly, he was still convinced of Lin Xiao's approach. He admitted defeat. Lin Xiao could solve such a difficult problem, while he had no idea what it was. He could only write solution and stare blankly. That was a stark difference. He had previously been dissatisfied with Lin Xiao's perfect score in the competition, thinking that Lin Xiao was just lucky. After all, competitions, while they emphasize skill, also play a role in luck. But now it seems that Lin Xiao's perfect score of 300 in the league was probably because the total score on the paper was only 300, while he only managed 267 because he could only get 267. That was a stark difference. The competition was over, a relief for the students. Now it was time to wait for the results. Most were nervous about their results, but a few were confident, completely certain of making the national team. As for Lin Xiao, he felt as if he hadn't even taken the exam. He was even in the mood to go play chess with the two professors. Seeing that he was done, Lin's parents naturally took him on a tour of Hangzhou. Seeing him like this, the members of the Qin provincial team couldn't help but envy him. Is this the mindset of a genius student? They were envious. Even Wang Yang was nervous, because he felt his performance wasn't great, even a little off, and he wasn't sure if he could make the national team. But no matter what, time passed quickly. On November 17th, they returned to Qin province, each to their school or home. They continued their classes and quietly waited for the results to be announced. The Mathematical Olympiad grading team. The grading team had quite a number of teachers in charge of this process, and every student's work had to be reviewed by several teachers before the results were finalized. Of course, with only about 300 contestants, grading didn't take long, and the entire process wouldn't take more than a few days. Soon, on November 21st, all the papers were graded. Okay, from now on, we'll start tallying the scores. I'll call out the student numbers, and you guys report the scores for each question, and then we'll tally them up, said the grading team leader. Now it's candidate number 1. The first question is 15 points, the second question is 6 points, the third question is 0 points, the fourth question is 18 points. The fifth question is 0 points, the sixth question is 0 points, the total score is 39 points. Candidate number 2, the first question is 21 points, the second question is 18 points, the third question is 6 points, the fourth question is 21 points, the fifth question is 0 points, the sixth question is 21 points, the total score is 87 points. Upon hearing the scores, the teachers in the grading group sighed. This result is very good. It must be in the top 10 this year. It's basically certain that to get 89 points, you must be very talented. The team leader interrupted their chat and said, "Okay, stop talking nonsense. We still have to announce the results tomorrow morning. There are more than 300 people, so everyone should hurry up. Now count candidate number 3, the first question." As the scores of each candidate were announced, the scores that determined whether these candidates would be admitted or not also appeared one by one. Candidate 233, question 1, 21 points, question 2, 21 points, question 3, 21 points. The grading team was stunned when they heard the 3 questions announced. This was the first test paper to receive full marks on the first 3 questions. With a score of 63, a gold medal was a sure thing. Even a few extra points on the last 3 questions would practically guarantee a spot on the national team. But would a candidate who scored full marks on the first 3 questions only get a few points on the last 3? Obviously not. Question 4, 21 points. Everyone was in a state of shock again. Another full score. And what about the 5th question? Question 5 was the most difficult of the exam. Judging by the results of the previous 232 candidates, the score rate was ridiculously low. 70% to 80% of the students scored 0, a small number scored a little, and the number of perfect scores could be counted on one hand. Could candidate 233 continue to score full marks? Question 5, also 21 points. Question 6, 21 points. The person reporting the score for question 6 followed suit, seemingly impatiently announcing their results. Perfect score again, perfect score again. The teacher in charge of statistics concluded the reporting. Candidate number 233, total score, 126 points, perfect score, incredible, unbelievable. Team leader, can I see the student's information? Someone exclaimed. Others followed suit. In reality, these people were teachers sent from prestigious universities, such as Shengjing University or Qinghu University. And now, candidate number 233's score was undoubtedly first place in the Olympiad, destined for the national training team. And generally speaking, a top-place finisher also had a high chance of making the national team. Such students were highly sought after by prestigious universities. Therefore, they wanted to know candidate number 233's name in advance, so they could tell their school staff and have them find the student's contact information. Then, naturally, they would immediately contact the student and his family, encouraging him to enroll at their school after graduation next year. As for whether or not to look at the Gaokao scores? Just kidding. Just getting into the national training team gives you direct admission to any major at either Beijing University or Tsinghua University. Not to mention this guy is number 1 in the country, so why would he even care about Gaokao scores? The grading team leader nodded. While he could refuse, and that was his right, so many university representatives had asked, and it wouldn't be nice to refuse. It was just social etiquette. So, he said, okay, then, let's hurry up and take a look. After all, everyone would know who this student was after the statistics were complete, so announcing it early wouldn't hurt. Besides, he himself was eager to know. The teachers began looking up the information on candidate number 233, and they all started making bets. I bet this student's from Shandong Province, I bet Zhejiang Province, I bet Beijing, I bet Shanghai. I hope everyone will give me votes and keep reading. If the scores are good after the results are released, I'll make 10,000 yuan a day, I bet. Chapter 29, Going to Beijing University is a lie. They recounted the provinces with the best results in the past. These provinces boasted excellent educational resources and substantial investment, so naturally, they often produced students with such high rankings. And then, they finally came across the information for candidate number 233. Lin Xiao. From Qin Province? Jincheng Middle School. Everyone was stunned. How could a top-ranked Olympiad winner suddenly emerge from Qin Province? Never before had a Qin student achieved first place in the Olympiad, even the top 10 was rare. And now, a Qin student had suddenly appeared? Furthermore, what was going on with this Jincheng Middle School? Wasn't this student even from Zhejiang? But someone quickly realized, this could only mean this student was incredibly gifted in mathematics. Those who reacted quietly sent messages to their schools without a word. Others, slower to react, also quickly sent the students' information to their own institutions. So, the admissions directors of schools like Shengjing University and Qinghu University all told their admissions officers, I want all the information on Lin Xiao within 3 minutes. Jincheng City, Industrial and Commercial Bureau. Lin Guowen, a section-level cadre, served on a team within the Municipal Administration for Industry and Commerce. Sitting in his office, a beaming smile spread across his face. He'd been beaming for days, and his colleagues knew the reason. After all, his son was so brilliant, even competing in a national math competition, and his university of choice for next year was practically certain, either Peking University or Tsinghua University. Consequently, the children of his colleagues were in trouble. Lately, parents could hear him gossiping about other children's successes. Even the director knew about this. After all, it was he who approved Lin Guowen's 7-day leave. He'd even inquired about it. Coincidentally, the director had connections at the Education Bureau and learned of a special incentive program for a student, with a maximum award of 220,000 yuan. Upon learning that this student was Lin Guowen's son, the director publicly praised Lin Guowen's outstanding educational work. Now, everyone in the department knew about the 220,000 yuan bonus. which only made his colleagues even more envious of Lin Xiao. "Old Lin, you've been so cheerful for a few days now, and you're still cheerful." "Cheerful, of course. How could I not be?" Lin Xiao smiled and continued with his work. But then, his phone rang. He checked number. It was from Shangjing. He frowned. Why would someone from Shangjing call him? Was it a wrong number? Since he was busy, he answered the call on speakerphone. Then he heard the voice on the other end. "Hello, is this Mr. Lin Xiao?" Lin Xiao's father. Lin Xiao was startled. "Lin Xiao? What's wrong with him? Did something happen?" He quickly asked. "It's me." "Who are you?" "Hello, Mr. Lin. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm from the admissions office of Shangjing University. We're hoping..." "What? What did you say?" "You're from the admissions office of Shangjing University." When Lin Xiao heard Shangjing University, he stopped what he was doing, picked up his phone again, and repeated his question. His colleagues couldn't help but look at him. The admissions office of Shangjing University calling Lin Xiao. What did that mean? Even if they were just guessing, they could guess what was going on. This was going to. "Yes, I'm Liu Kirwan from the admissions office of Shangjing University. First of all, let me congratulate you. Your child, Lin Xiao, has achieved a perfect score in the 33rd National Mathematical Olympiad. This means that Lin Xiao is guaranteed to take first place." Lin Xiao was stunned again. His son had taken first place in the country again? And with a perfect score? But weren't the results out yet? With the caution of an adult, he asked, "The results haven't come out yet, have they? How did you know?" "You're not lying to me, are you?" The other person laughed and said, "Haha, Mr. Lin, don't worry. We at Shangjing University have channels to know in advance, and the results will be released tonight at midnight. The test results are basically out, so don't worry. If all else fails, you can look up my name and phone number online. It should be there." Lin Xiao immediately looked up the number online and found it was indeed from the admissions office of Shangjing University. He relaxed, then smiled and said, "I've confirmed it. Please go ahead. Is there anything else?" "Well, your child performed so well in this mathematical Olympiad, we're inviting Lin Xiao to attend Shangjing University next year. What do you think?" Lin Xiao said with a chuckle. "Of course I don't mind. Of course, it depends on Lin Xiao's personal choice." Hearing that there seemed to be a chance, the other party immediately said, "Well, if Lin Xiao is willing to come to Shangjing University, we can help him transfer his household registration there. In addition, we can also provide him with a substantial scholarship. This scholarship will also be determined based on his final results in the mathematics competition. For example, if he can make the national team in the future, and if he can continue to achieve excellent results in international Olympiads after making the national team, we can guarantee that he can provide Lin Xiao with a scholarship of over 500,000 yuan. 500,000 yuan. The colleagues around him were shocked again when they heard this. What the hell? This is true learning to make money. Previously, the Education Bureau's incentive program could only provide Lin Xiao with a scholarship of 220,000 yuan. Now, the school is offering a maximum scholarship of over 500,000 yuan. Doesn't that mean it's almost 1 million yuan? That amount could buy a decent small house in the best area of Jinchang City. His colleagues at the Industry and Commerce Bureau were even more envious of Lin Xiao. They thought, to have raised such a promising child, must he have saved the earth in his past life? Lin Xiao was persuaded by the offer 500,000 yuan. His family's savings had never exceeded that. However, he quickly came to his senses. The offer required his son to achieve good results in the International Mathematical Olympiad to receive such a large prize. Although he believed his son had the ability, what if something unexpected happened? At that moment, he suddenly saw another text message on his phone. "Mr. Lin, I'm from the admissions office of Qinghu University. Don't believe anything Shangjing University says. They're all lying." Chapter 30 We are the same. Upon seeing the message, Lin Xiao burst out laughing and said into his phone, "A teacher from Qinghu University's admissions office also sent me a message." The person on the other end, upon hearing this, quickly said, "From Qinghu? I'm telling you, don't believe anything they say. It's their old trick." Lin Xiao found it even more amusing. They were so in tune with each other, both saying not to believe each other. But at the same time, he felt incredibly proud. Qinghu University and Shangjing University were both vying for his son. What else could he say? Besides, he was pretty confident. With both schools vying for him, there was no need to rush. He would go back and ask his son's opinion first. So he said, "Don't worry, I personally prefer Shengjing University, but this matter also depends on Lin Xiao's own wishes, so we'll discuss this in detail later." The teacher from Shengjing University's admissions office was somewhat pleased to hear Lin Guowen's words. At least Lin Guowen had expressed his preference for their school. In reality, Lin Guowen's words were just a tactic, like expressing your preference for a job candidate during an interview. Whether or not they'll be successful is another matter. Then he hung up. Lin Guowen's colleagues immediately gathered around, saying, "Old Lin, fine, it's up to you to choose a university. We've contacted both Qinghe University and Beijing University." Lin Guowen waved his hand, nonchalantly saying, "Whatever. I'm worried they were calling at this hour. I'm busy, so I can't call after get off work." Colleagues, are you holding back on your Versailles attitude? Then how about we switch to our son? That way, I'll answer the phone, a colleague joked. Lin Guowen immediately responded, "Get lost. Don't even think about it." Ha ha ha. Everyone in the office laughed. Meanwhile, Qinghe University was taking the wife route. Yang Rong taught math at Jincheng Elementary School. Lin Xiao's math skills were closely tied to her mother's math skills. Meanwhile, Yang Rong also received a call from Qinghe University. Qinghe University had originally intended to call Lin Guowen, but his line was busy. So they called Shengjing University's admissions office, finding it busy there too. Naturally, they assumed Shengjing University's rival had gotten through first, hence the text message they'd sent to Lin Guowen. Since they couldn't get through to Lin Guowen, they called Yang Rong. As for where they'd gotten the contact information, it goes without saying. The admissions offices of both universities were incredibly resourceful and well-connected. They claimed they'd gotten Lin Xiao's contact information in 3 minutes, and the process was finalized in 2. As Yang Rong hung up, the other teachers in the office were envious. A direct call from Qinghe University, what a treat. Who wouldn't want such a brilliant student? Of course, Yang Rong didn't agree outright. She also said it depended on Lin Xiao's opinion. If he was willing, she'd certainly support him. Lin Xiao, the person involved, was in English class when his homeroom teacher, Teacher Wang, suddenly entered and shouted at him from the doorway, "Lin Xiao, someone from the admissions office at Shengjing University called you." Someone from Qinghe University called too. Clearly, Teacher Wang's words were heard by the entire class. Suddenly, every student gasped, looking at Lin Xiao in shock. Shengjing University and Qinghe University called simultaneously, and both called right here at the school. How could this possibly be? And what had Lin Xiao done to warrant calls from the admissions offices of these two prestigious universities? The only thing anyone could think of was the National Mathematical Olympiad a week prior. Lin Xiao had taken a week off, and they all knew about it. Their math teacher had mentioned this as well, saying that if they placed in the top 60 of the National Mathematical Olympiad and became a member of the national training team, they would be eligible for admission to both schools. But the results weren't out yet, were they? If they were, wouldn't the school have put up a banner at the entrance? Of course, there was no point in dwelling on whether it was true or not. The homeroom teacher had already called out to him at the door, so how could it be false? Chen Ang immediately patted Lin Xiao's shoulder and said solemnly, "If you become rich and powerful, don't forget each other." Lin Xiao slapped his hand away. "Let's just maintain this pure friendship between classmates and not get involved in such dirty dealings, Chen Ang." Then Lin Xiao stood up and, under the gaze of his classmates, walked to the door. Of course, the English teacher didn't say anything. Lin Xiao's recent English test scores had always been above 140 or 145, so there wasn't much to say. Besides, now that two prestigious universities had called Lin Xiao, the grades didn't seem to matter. Soon, Lin Xiao and Teacher Wang arrived at the office. Teacher Wang pointed to a piece of paper and said, "These are the phone numbers for Shengjing University and Qinghe University. Pick one to call." Lin Xiao stroked his chin. Which one should he choose? Unexpectedly, the dilemma we once struggled with in elementary school, whether to attend Peking University or Qinghe University, had taken on a new form. Should I respond to Peking University or Qinghe University first? If I called Peking University back first, would Qinghe University be angry? And vice versa. Lin Xiao couldn't help but feel helpless. "Oh, why are you all so attracted to me? I'm just a little bit better at school, now I'm having trouble making a decision." Finally, he hesitated and said, "How about, we fight together? Some kind of video conference?" Teacher Wang was immediately amused. That was a good move. Aren't you afraid the two universities will start arguing in front of you? Maybe they'll even have to arrange a physical fight. The shortest distance between the gates of Peking University and Qinghua University is only 2 kilometers, so the chances of a fight are quite high. Still, Teacher Wang agreed to Lin Xiao's suggestion because he thought it seemed quite interesting. In all his years as a teacher, this was the first time he'd seen two schools call simultaneously. Seeing them competing for students was truly intriguing. So, he called both schools back and asked them to convene a meeting. The admissions offices of both schools agreed, and the online meeting began. Then, things started to go awry. The teacher in the admissions office of Shangjing University was a young, pretty, and pleasantly spoken woman. Upon seeing Lin Xiao appear in the live stream, she beamed and said, "Student Lin Xiao, first of all, congratulations on achieving another perfect score in the just concluded National Mathematical Olympiad. It's quite rare for a student like you to achieve perfect scores in both the Mathematical League and the Mathematical Olympiad. Of course, you might be wondering how we knew the results when they haven't come out yet. Don't worry about that. The Olympiad results will be announced tonight at 12 p.m., and yours are already out, so, based on your results, we at Shangjing University now formally invite you to come to our university in September of next year. Shangjing University welcomes you, Qinghua University, we do the same. Please recommend, vote for the monthly subscription, and read on. Thank you so much. I'll definitely update more if you do well." Chapter 31 You Fart. Shangjing University, in addition, since you won first place with a perfect score in the Mathematical Olympiad, we will provide you with a scholarship of 100,000 yuan and a certain amount of living allowance every month. If you can continue to perform well in subsequent mathematics competitions, such as entering the national team and then winning a gold medal in the EMO, we will provide you with more scholarships. Qinghua University, we are the same. Shangjing University, we will also provide you with the best faculty support in the country, and you can choose any professor to tutor you. Qinghua University, we are the same. Shangjing University, don't believe Qinghua. The conditions they can offer are definitely not as good as ours. Qinghua University, you are talking nonsense. Classmate Lin Xiao, we are willing to provide you with a scholarship of 110,000 yuan, and it will definitely be more than theirs in the future. Shangjing University, we have called your father, and your father also said that he likes our school. Your mother will definitely agree by then. Qinghua University, you are talking nonsense. Classmate Lin Xiao, we have called your mother. Your mother said that she likes our Qinghua and plans to go back and tell your father about it. Besides, don't you think the word Qinghua sounds better than their Shangjing? Shangjing University, you are talking nonsense. How can our Shangjing University's name be bad? If you tell people who don't know your name Qinghua, they will think it popped up from some corner. Besides, classmate Lin Xiao, our Shangjing University was established more than 10 years earlier than their Qinghua, and has more historical and cultural heritage. Qinghua University, you are talking nonsense. Our school area is almost half the size of yours. Shangjing University, you are talking nonsense. At most 1/3, and they still need the other half? Classmate Lin Xiao, you see they can't even count, which shows how bad their math is. So you should come to our school. Besides, our Shangjing University is ranked higher than theirs in the world in mathematics. Qinghua University, you are talking nonsense. At %, Lin Xiao, Wang and Yao. Lin Xiao probably hadn't expected the two admissions teachers to actually get into a fight, and it seemed quite intense, especially since both were pretty women. It was truly fierce. He and Teacher Wang watched as the two prestigious university teachers argued over everything from the school's history and culture to the faculty, then on to alumni and other benefits. Of course, the reason both universities were so eager to invite Lin Xiao wasn't just his grades. They had discovered that Lin Xiao had completed the exam in half the time, and his progress seemed remarkably effortless. This undoubtedly proved that even the Olympiad questions, considered incredibly difficult by other students, were no problem for him. Even the most challenging fifth question, which he finished in just 50 minutes, took him just over 50 minutes. Furthermore, Lin Xiao's performance in other subjects was also excellent, and the two universities naturally knew that he had previously achieved top marks in all 5 provinces in the joint entrance exam. Such a versatile talent, coupled with his exceptional mathematical talent, deserved no less attention. That's why they were vying for him so fiercely. Otherwise, with 6 students participating in the EMO every year, they couldn't possibly spend a fortune to invite each of them, right? Waiving tuition and miscellaneous fees would be considered preferential treatment. For example, when they used to compete for the top scorer in the college entrance examination, they weren't actually competing for the person, but their status in the world. After all, it was well known that they were the two most powerful schools in the country. If one of their schools couldn't get a good student and the other took it away, they would naturally be considered weak. Lin Xiao was obviously different from these people. There were top scorers every year, but there weren't many students as talented as Lin Xiao. So after more than 10 minutes, the two female teachers finally got tired of arguing and called a timeout. At this time, the teacher from Beijing University looked at Lin Xiao and said, "Student Lin, what do you think? I'll sit down and watch." "Oh, that's not right." Lin Xiao sat on the chair, quickly changed his words, and then said, Both teachers are right. I think both Beijing University and Tsinghua University are very good. I'm a little conflicted. How about this? I'll discuss it with my family after I go back." Beijing University, your father said that he values our school more. Boys should listen to their fathers. Tsinghua University, your mother said that she likes our school. Boys should listen to their mothers. Jeizhou has sung this song. Beijing University, Jeizhou also sang "Listen to Dad." Lin Xiao, I'll discuss it after I go back. Anyway, thank you two teachers. Seeing Lin Xiao say this, the two teachers had to agree. But just then, Lin Xiao added, "By the way, what if I not only win the gold medal in the EMO next year, but also take the top spot in the Gaokao? Will I get more money, more rewards?" Teacher Wang silently grumbled, "This kid's at it again, trying to profit from both ends. And, how much money would that make?" Suddenly, both teachers were stunned. This, Lin Xiao, can you do it? They had no doubt that if Lin Xiao chose a single path and kept going, he would have a chance at either the EMO gold medal or the Gaokao. But getting both would be difficult, wouldn't it? Of course, since Lin Xiao had said this, the two teachers naturally responded, "Of course, no problem. We will apply to the school for a higher reward, and it will definitely not be lower than it is now." If Lin Xiao actually took the top spot in the Gaokao, they simply couldn't imagine it. As long as Lin Xiao got into their school, they'd even have the trending headlines ready. When the Gaokao results came out, it would be National Mathematics Team athlete becomes top scorer in science, and when the EMO results came out, it would be top scorer in science wins gold medal at the World Mathematical Olympiad. The article would then explain that this student had joined the University of Beijing Tsinghua University, not Tsinghua University Tsinghua University. This would definitely put the other party in a better position. Of course, the two teachers could only speculate on such a possibility. After all, they couldn't guarantee that Lin Xiao could actually achieve such an unheard of feat. There was nothing more to say after the video conference. Afterward, Lin Xiao went to class as usual and, in the evening, discussed with his family which university to attend. Of course, for Lin Xiao, it wasn't a big deal. After all, he was ready to win both the top scorer and the EMO gold medal. He didn't have to worry about not getting into school. Even if he didn't decide now, he could wait until next year. Chapter 32, People don't know how great they are unless they are praised. However, considering that Shenzhen University's mathematics program was the best in the country, superior to Tsinghua, he still had his heart set on it and had already decided to major in mathematics. Of course, even so, simply calling the other party to tell them about this would save them from haste, much like giving them the cold shoulder in a negotiation. And so, the next day, November 22nd, arrived. In the early morning of that day, the results of the 33rd China Mathematical Olympiad were officially announced. There were 129 first prize gold medalists, 142 second prize silver medalists, and 86 third prize bronze medalists. The top 60 first prize winners automatically became members of the national training team. Since this year was an odd-numbered year, the cutoff scores for each category were naturally quite low. 69 for the training team, 57 for first prize winners, and 42 for second prize winners. Third prize winners weren't counted, so basically anyone with a score was guaranteed a spot. Subsequently, prestigious high schools began to check the results, eager to see how their students performed. The students at the top of the list were the first to be reviewed by the major schools. After all, for those prestigious high schools, it's a real honor if their own student takes first place. Then, they saw the name of an unfamiliar high school at the top of the list, and that student was named Lin Xiao. What the hell? was the initial reaction of many schools. Was this a dark horse? They were all quite surprised. This kind of exam relies on the sheer volume of a school's investment. How could a dark horse emerge so easily? Would such a dark horse student have already been scouted by those high-investment schools before they even entered high school or middle school? Furthermore, while the public list of winners didn't include scores, these schools had generally received their scores, and Lin Xiao's score of 126 stunned them all. A perfect score, and the only one to do so. The second-place finisher scored 121, just 5 points shy of the perfect score. While it was only 5 points, it was a significant difference. Because a perfect score doesn't reflect the true ability of the students who earned it, because a perfect score is only a perfect score and can't be added to. For example, if an unknown number x falls within the range 0, 100, its maximum value can only be 100. But if it falls within the range 0, 1000, its maximum value is far from just 100, but 1000. Therefore, these schools can only lament the good fortune of Jincheng Middle School for having such a talented student. Next, it's time to calculate the quotas for each province. This time, 3 people from Qin province won gold medals. In addition to Lin Xiao, the other 2 were Wang Yang and Sun Yu. Wang Yang didn't make the top 60, meaning he missed out on the national team, and his math competition career came to an end. With his gold medal, he could then apply for independent admission to any university except Peking University and Tsinghua University, and would likely have easy admission. Meanwhile, Sun Yu from the affiliated High School of Northwestern Polytechnical University achieved an unexpected comeback, rising from 8th place in the province in the league to 31st place in the National Olympiad. This means he and Lin Xiao will compete in the upcoming national team tryouts. If he can continue to demonstrate this comeback, he might even have the chance to make the national team. After all, going from 8th place in the province to 31st nationally demonstrates his considerable talent and ability. Perhaps his 8th place finish in the league was due to lack of prior preparation, and now, seeing the opportunity for admission to Peking University or Tsinghua University, he gave it a try. In short, 2 students from Qin province made the national training team this year, a breakthrough. Previously, only 1, if not none, had made the national team in 5 years, and no students had made the national team for the EMO in 15 years. This year, however, the emergence of Lin Xiao, a mathematical prodigy, the only person in the country to achieve a perfect score and undisputed first place, excited everyone in the province. Perhaps Lin Xiao could help Qin province overcome its 15-year drought of no students making the national team. Therefore, the Qin Province Mathematical Society also sent the good news directly to Lin Xiao and Jincheng Middle School, expressing encouragement and hoping that he would continue to work hard. Of course, these celebrations were not enough. Jincheng Middle School's celebration was truly comprehensive and indiscriminate. That morning, when Lin Xiao arrived at school, he saw a red banner hanging above the tall school gate. It must have been put up last night after a long period of overtime. The message read, "Congratulations to Lin Xiao, a student in Class 1, Grade 11 Science, for winning first place in the 33rd China Mathematical Olympiad." Seeing the banner, Lin Xiao could even hear the surprised and envious chatter of the surrounding students. "Oh my god, isn't this the guy we praised at the flag-raising ceremony? He won first place in the National League and the National Mathematical Olympiad. This guy is oh damn good. Anyone who can do math well is a freak. I'm so jealous. This guy's already been recommended to Peking University and Tsinghua University. Sigh, I doubt I'll even get into 211 University. Oh, this is the world of the top students, so amazing. I heard he'll be competing in the International Mathematical Olympiad, representing the entire country. Fuck. He's going to compete for his country." Hearing all this talk, Lin Xiao rubbed his face. "As expected of me, Alice, there aren't many people who are so handsome and still considered top students, are they? Well, I should guard against arrogance and keep working hard." With a chuckle, he hummed a song as he entered the campus. "The sun shines brightly, the flowers smile at me, the birds say good morning, why are you carrying a bomb? Pa, little backpack." He entered the campus and arrived in front of the main teaching building. There was an electronic scrolling sign at the entrance. It's called an electronic scrolling board, naturally, because the content on it scrolls. But today, it stopped scrolling. The content on it was still commending Lin Xiao, and it was more numerous and detailed than the red banner outside. "Congratulations to Lin Xiao, a student from Class 1, Grade 11 Science, for winning first place in the 33rd China Mathematical Olympiad with a perfect score of 126. He also achieved a perfect score in the National High School Mathematics League 2 months ago. Lin Xiao has now successfully entered the National Mathematics Training Team and will participate in the National Team Selection Competition. If successful, Lin Xiao will be able to represent my country in the International Mathematical Olympiad, EMO. So, let us all wish Lin Xiao continued success, and we also hope that every student will learn from him. Lin Xiao looked at the line of red words and scratched his head shyly. This makes me feel awkward. Please keep pushing. Don't stop. After all, people don't realize how great they are without a little praise. Thank you all for your support. Please vote for me. Please keep reading. There's nothing much to say. I'm just begging you all. Chapter 33, The Happiness of Your Arsenic and His Candied Fruit. Back in the classroom, needless to say, the classmates were buzzing about Lin Xiao. All in all, Lin Xiao received numerous congratulations from his classmates. And that wasn't all. During morning exercises, the school leaders announced the good news over the loudspeaker. It was as if every possible publicity tactic was used, like a novel recommended by Kidian.com. It took off. Meanwhile, Lin Xiao was once again summoned to the principal's office. Principal Hu and the school leaders congratulated him. Student Lin Xiao, you've done very well. Jincheng Middle School is proud of you. Principal Hu smiled and gave Lin Xiao a thumbs up, and said kindly, of course, on behalf of Jincheng Middle School, I would like to thank you for bringing honor to the school. Lin Xiao smiled and said, I'm doing this for myself. Besides, the teachers, classmates, and principal who are all so kind to me. It's what I hope to bring something to the school. Haha, you kid, you're quite good at talking. Principal Hu patted Lin Xiao on the shoulder, and the smile on his face couldn't be stopped. Of course, it's good to be able to talk. In today's society, we still need people who can talk. Okay, there's no need to say more about these. Our Provincial Mathematical Society also sent congratulations this morning, congratulating you on such an achievement. Our Provincial Department of Education also sent congratulations. It is rare for our school's name to appear on the list of provincial leaders. This is also your credit. Also, Director Xiao just called and asked me to tell you that now that you've won the gold medal and made it to the international training team, that's another 20,000 yuan reward, which will be given to you later along with the 30,000 yuan. Lin Xiao's eyes lit up. 50,000 yuan. Got it. And then you'll be joining the national team, which would literally double your money. Thank you, Principal Hu. Thank you, Director Xiao. My admiration for you is like a surging river. He immediately expressed it. Stop, stop, Principal Hu interrupted Lin Xiao with a laugh, then added, of course, just thank me, don't thank him. I fought for this for you. Everyone around them couldn't help but laugh. Principal Hu and Director Xiao were still at loggerheads. After that, there wasn't much else to say. Lin Xiao and his team had no awards to their name, but the school also offered various scholarships to students every year, all of which were covered by the plan, so Lin Xiao's spot was practically guaranteed. Of course, he was completely deserving of the awards, which totaled around 6,000 or 7,000 yuan. That was self-explanatory. With Lin Xiao's academic performance, earning scholarships was relatively easy. The congratulations continued to pour in, from the school to the Municipal Education Bureau. Later, even the deputy mayor in charge of education met with him and took a photo. The city television station even knocked on his door for interviews. The two coaches who had led the team, Professor Wang and Professor Zhang, who were known for their sleight-of-hand chess skills, also called Lin Xiao to congratulate him and wish him success in next year's national team trials, placing in the top 6 of the 60, and producing a certificate for the International Mathematical Olympiad, bringing glory to the country. Everyone was confident that Lin Xiao would make the national team. Would Lin Xiao disappoint these people? Obviously not. Furthermore, he himself was full of confidence. Meanwhile, facing offers from two prestigious universities, Shangjing University and Qinghua University, Lin Xiao ultimately chose Shangjing University. The two universities offered similar qualifications, and their national standing and access to resources were similar, so there was no need to dwell on material resources. However, Shangjing University's mathematics department was second to none in China. For example, in the third round of national academic evaluations in 2012, Shangjing University ranked first, while Qinghua University only placed 5th. Although the results of the fourth round of academic evaluations, currently underway in 2017, have not yet been released, it seems Shangjing University is even more impressive. Furthermore, Shangjing University's physics department is also ranked first in the country. If Lin Xiao had chosen a second degree, physics would have been his first choice, as he was deeply interested in it. After all, the stories of famous figures like Newton and Edison, as depicted in textbooks, were all renowned physicists. Qinghe University could only express regret over his choice, believing it was truly inferior to its competitors in academic disciplines. Qinghe University's strengths lay primarily in other areas. Shangjing University, however, was delighted and quickly dispatched representatives to Jinchang to sign an agreement with Lin Xiao, which included various scholarship programs. Lin Xiao's biggest challenge was the reward of achieving both the top scorer in the Gaokao and the EMO gold medal. First, there was a direct scholarship of 1 million yuan, plus a monthly stipend of 10,000 yuan during his university years. He would also receive priority consideration for scholarships and guaranteed admission to graduate school, among other benefits. Furthermore, he would enjoy special privileges within the university, including the ability to select 3 advisors for one-on-one guidance. If he later considered pursuing a minor or a second degree, these benefits would also be available. What was Shangjing University's greatest strength? Of course, it was its faculty. Faculty is a crucial factor supporting a university's standing. Just like Lanzhou University, once a formidable institution, it now ranks among the lowest among the 985 universities due to the loss of many high-caliber talent. Only a strong faculty could attract students. Therefore, the offer Shangjing University offered Lin Xiao was truly generous. He could choose from 3 instructors for one-on-one instruction. No student in Shangjing University's history had ever received such treatment. Furthermore, if a teacher Lin Xiao favored refused to teach him, the university would arrange for someone to persuade him to accept. This was understandable. Since 1979, the combined achievements of the EMO gold medalist and the top scorer in the Gaokao National College Entrance Examination had never occurred in the same person. This was already historic, and Shangjing University deserved to treat him with similarly historic treatment. Of course, that presupposes Lin Xiao can truly achieve both the top scorer and the EMO gold medal. His first challenge would be to win the national team trials again. Time flew by. The excitement of his outstanding Olympiad results gradually subsided, and Lin Xiao's life returned to a routine of eating, studying, and sleeping. Because he could experience the joy of learning. What others considered an ascetic life was, for him, a joyful and unstoppable life. This is probably the so-called one man's poison, another man's fruit. As for what he was studying now, it was still primarily mathematics, but he had barely studied high school math, having already fully entered the realm of university mathematics. Having completed all the advanced math, he purchased textbooks for advanced algebra and mathematical analysis and began to delve deeper into them. Chapter 34 National Team Training Camp opens. As Lin Xiao's studies progressed, he felt a growing sense of freedom, a sense of freedom for fish to leap, and a sense of freedom for birds to soar. This was because learning this more difficult knowledge brought him greater comfort. It was perhaps like a shark in an aquarium versus a shark in the ocean. For a shark, whose lifelong need is constant swimming, the aquarium's confines are too small to fully utilize its exceptional swimming abilities. The ocean, on the other hand, is vast enough that even a shark could swim its entire life without reaching every corner. When Lin Xiao reached level 1 in math, in addition to the 0.05% increase in brain development, he also felt a subtle improvement in his understanding of mathematics. This was likely a hidden effect, one the system didn't explain. With this improvement, coupled with a 2.75% increase in brain development, only more challenging problems could satisfy Lin Xiao's thirst for new knowledge. Of course, he also made sure to keep up with the other subjects on the Gaokao National College Entrance Examination, making time every day to consolidate his knowledge. After all, only by achieving the top score in science next year would he have millions in his pocket and move a few percentage points closer to his smaller goal. So, in subsequent school exams, he remained at the top of his grade, his combined score in all 4 subjects consistently hovering above 700, occasionally even reaching over 740. And time flew by. It was the end of 2017, December 28th. For most people, in a few days, they would be another year older. But for the high school seniors, They had less than 6 months before a fateful test that would determine their future. Of course, there were always some exceptions among the seniors, such as the 60 math gurus already recommended for admission to Peking University and Tsinghua University. While they didn't have to take the test 6 months later, they faced their own test. That was the first phase of the national team selection training, which began on December 30th. This phase would eliminate 45 students, leaving only 15 who would compete in the second phase in late March of the following year. The remaining 6 would make the national team. A 10-to-1 ratio was brutal, especially since the 54 eliminated would be among the students' top math prodigies. But there's no way around it. Only the geniuses of geniuses have the opportunity to represent the country. To achieve honor, one must have the necessary skills to back it up. The first phase of the intensive training selections will be held at the No. 1 affiliated high school of East China Normal University. 60 students will report on the 29th, and the competition will officially begin on the 30th. The first phase will consist of 2 exams, each similar to the Olympiad format, lasting 2 days, with 3 questions each day. Those who advance to the second phase will be selected based on their scores. In addition to the exams, there will be 10 lectures during the period, featuring renowned mathematicians. These lectures will explain various problems in exam papers to these mathematical prodigies. Furthermore, some CMOs who have won second place or higher but didn't make the national training team can opt to audit the sessions, paying a substantial fee. They can take exams and attend classes alongside the training team members, improving their foundation and acting as if they were enrolled in a training course. So, around 20 students have chosen to audit the sessions, bringing the total to over 80 students. Lin Xiao, naturally, is among them. This time, Lin's parents didn't come with him. After all, they were busy with work, and taking long vacations wasn't ideal. So Lin Xiao went alone, a first for him. Personally, though, he felt quite good about it. It was like many boys leaving their parents for college for the first time, thinking, I'm finally free from control. After all, as children, most people yearn to grow up quickly so they can be free from their family's control. However, after 10 days or half a month at college, those thoughts fade. They start to miss home, and I wonder how many students shed secret tears of longing at night. Of course, Lin Xiao was only there for the competition, about 13 days. While that was a long time, it wasn't a big deal. Furthermore, there was no need to worry about their safety. The Qin Province Mathematical Society would once again send them to the competition. After all, they were representing the entire province, and even the expenses were covered by the province. This was also to avoid a situation where impoverished math prodigies couldn't participate in the competition because their families couldn't afford the thousands of yuan in fees. Such regrets shouldn't occur in China, which has a 9-year compulsory education system, let alone Qin Province, which has implemented 12 years of compulsory education since 2016. And so, amidst the sounds of good wishes, Lin Xiao and his teammate, Sun Yu, arrived at their destination, the No. 1 affiliated high school of East China Normal University. First, they had to check into the hotel and stow their luggage. They were assigned to a nearby hotel. Well, Lin Xiao, here's your room card, 718. Sun Yu, this is your room card, 705. If you want to stay together, just talk to your roommates. The team leader sent by the Qin Province Mathematical Society checked them in and collected their room cards. The rooms were largely random, not divided by province. After all, some provinces only had 1 student, while others had an odd number of students. Therefore, Lin Xiao and Sun Yu weren't together. That's fine. Too much trouble. Lin Xiao and Sun Yu shook their heads. They weren't familiar with each other, so it didn't matter whether they stayed together or not. Okay, then. Let's go up now. The team leader nodded without saying anything, then led the 2 up to the 7th floor. With their help, they quickly put their belongings into their rooms, and then it was time to part ways with the team leader. I wish you all the best in your studies. Lin Xiao, you'll be fine. Sun Yu, you're also very talented. Your achievements from the league to the CMO competition speak for themselves. We hope you all do well, too. The Qin Province Mathematical Society looks forward to hearing from you. Thank you, team leader. The 2 students nodded. Well, that's all for now. I'm leaving now. Just call me if you need anything. The team leader then left. Lin Xiao and Sun Yu said goodbye and returned to their room. It was a standard room, with 2 single beds. After all, the hotel had limited rooms, and it was impossible to provide a single room for over 90 people. There was already a boy in the room, presumably his roommate for the next 12 days. Having put their luggage away, they hadn't exchanged words. Lin Xiao thought, after all, they'd be sharing a room for 12 days, so he probably should have a few words, right? So he said, "Hello, my name is Lin Xiao. What's your name?" The boy was studying at his desk. Hearing his voice, he raised his head slightly, glanced at Lin Xiao, and replied, "Kong Huan." Then he turned back to his book. "Oh, by the way, which province are you from? Shanghai?" "What?" His voice was so soft that Lin Xiao couldn't quite hear. "Shanghai?" Kong Huan's voice was a little louder, but not much. "Shanghai? That's great. I'm from Qin province." Oh, awkward conversation with strangers wasn't particularly interesting, especially since Lin Xiao felt Kong Huan was a bit too reserved. He wouldn't even look at him, and his voice was low. Autistic? Lin Xiao didn't say anything. Everyone has their own personality, and when he spoke, it was just a few polite words. He didn't say anything more, packed up, and returned to his studies. Please give me recommendation votes, monthly votes, and follow-up reading. I ask for anything. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. Do you think I'm handsome too? Lin Xiao pulled the Mathematical Analysis II textbook from his bag and began to read. This was the Zhou Miqiang edition. Of course, Lin Xiao also had the internal lecture notes from Shengjing University, but Zhou Miqiang's edition was superior, so he focused on this textbook. As for the textbooks, they were all provided by Shengjing University. After Lin Xiao chose Shengjing University, he asked for a set of materials needed by the university's mathematics department. The admissions office was delighted. The more Lin Xiao enjoyed studying, the more their efforts were worthwhile. So, they sent all the materials to Lin Xiao, along with a plethora of online courses and more in-depth textbooks. These materials would cost tens of thousands of yuan if sold outside, and some of the internal materials were not publicly available. After reading for a while, he put the book down. Since he only had less than 10 pages left, he finished it quickly. Then, the system's voice echoed in his mind. The host has basically mastered the basics of mathematical analysis. Rewards: mathematical experience +5, truth points +0.5. Hearing the system's voice, Lin Xiao smiled slightly. Every time he completed a university math course and mastered the key points, the system would reward him. By now, he had read all the textbooks for advanced mathematics, advanced algebra, and mathematical analysis, which consisted of several volumes for each subject. After completing each course, he would be rewarded with 5 experience points and 0.5 truth points. However, the prerequisite was that he had to master all the knowledge, so he could only receive the rewards after carefully reading through them. "Open my personal dashboard," Lin Xiao muttered to himself, and the dashboard quickly popped up in front of him. Host: Lin Xiao, truth points. 4.2, Universal Truth Branch Level, Mathematics, Level 1, 16/50, Chemistry, Level 0, 2/10, Physics, Level 0, 2/10, Biology, Level 0, 2/10, Materials Science, Level 0, 0/10, Informatics, Level 0, 0/10. Looking at the levels, he shook his head helplessly. Why is it so hard to level up? It made him want to exchange 34 truth points for experience points to add to math. He wondered how much his brain development would improve after reaching level 2 in math, and how his understanding and application of mathematics would be enhanced. Without further thought, he pulled out his abstract algebra textbook and began studying. Learning never ends. Then, he fell into a deep study state, completely oblivious to his surroundings. He studied until it was time to eat at the hotel restaurant, then went to the school auditorium for the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony wasn't much to say, just encouragement and the hope that they'd all get good grades. After the meeting, it was time to visit the exam hall and prepare for the exam the following morning. Time slipped by, 2 days in, and exams followed. The national team trials were incredibly difficult, even more so than the CMO exams, but at least there weren't any easy-to-score questions. As a result, after 2 days of testing, Lin Xiao could even sense the other contestants' spirits sinking. His roommate, Kong Huan, seemed even more withdrawn. Even when he invited him to dinner, he had to call out 2 or 3 times before he responded. Of course, Lin Xiao himself remained fine, eating and sleeping well. He even skipped practice altogether, focusing on his abstract algebra. And so, the first day after the exam arrived. Today was also the first day of the intensive training course. The first person to teach them was Chen Song, a professor in the Department of Mathematics at East China Normal University. Hello, math geniuses from all over the country. I'm so happy to be here teaching you this class. After 2 days of exams, how are you feeling? Did you enjoy it? Professor Chen said, beaming as he faced the 80-plus students. Most of the students' faces fell at Professor Chen's words. You call that enjoyable? It was indeed enjoyable, a refreshing relief. Chen Song certainly knew what these students were thinking. After all, he had their transcripts in hand. Haha, okay, I understand how you feel. You may not have done very well, but don't worry. Our national team selection process is more rigorous, so the questions are generally quite difficult. It's understandable that you find them difficult, and don't be afraid. The next exam is still 8 days away. Pay close attention in class, delve deeper, and you'll have no problem after that. So, enough rambling, let's announce the results from the past 2 days. Where's Lin Xiao? Let's meet him. Lin Xiao, who was sitting down, was startled, then stood up and looked at Professor Chen. Professor Chen glanced at him, smiled, and nodded, his eyes full of admiration. Well, you're quite a handsome boy, not bad. Of course, your grades are also good, which is even better. Congratulations on getting a perfect score again after the Olympiad, and you're still the only one with a perfect score on this exam. As soon as Professor Chen spoke, the other students in the classroom were suddenly surprised and looked at the boy who had stood up. Is this Lin Xiao? The one who took first place in the CMO? He actually got a perfect score on the exam 2 days ago? Is he even human? These math geniuses were in disbelief. Lin Xiao had actually gotten a perfect score on the problem that had been so frustrating to them. And what did Professor Chen Song mean by getting a perfect score again after the Olympiad? Could it be that he won first place in the Olympiad because he got a perfect score? The students suddenly sensed an aura of a superb academic master emanating from the standing student, making them, who were also regarded as geniuses by their classmates, feel a sense of suffocation. Big brother, awesome, Professor Chen Song, standing in front, also beamed, clapping his hands. He knew that Lin Xiao had consistently achieved perfect scores throughout the league, never losing a single point. He was surprised to learn that even on the difficult exams 2 days prior, he still managed to get a perfect score. The difficulty of this first exam was intended to temper the 60 contestants. After all, these 60 contestants had already secured admission to prestigious universities, so they might have become somewhat complacent. Those competing in the EMO couldn't afford to harbor such a mindset, as it would easily lead to setbacks. However, while they had hoped to give these students a taste of the challenges presented by the difficult questions, unexpectedly, one of them managed to achieve a perfect score, and it was the same student who had also achieved a perfect score on the CMO. This stunned the entire teaching staff at the training camp. After their amazement, they were delighted by Lin Xiao's performance. Such a dynamic student had never appeared before. If he could continue to perform at such a high level, wouldn't they have a consistent EMO perfect scorer? Although the EMO is a competition for individual performance, as a national team, the scores of all participating countries are added up to see who has the highest total score. The country with the highest total score among the 6 players will be ranked first that year. Therefore, being able to determine a perfect scorer right now is of course the best. Therefore, Professor Chen Song looked at Lin Xiao with great satisfaction. At this time, Lin Xiao shyly said, "You think I'm handsome too, right, Chen Song?" The students. Chapter 36, Boss, what are you writing again? Is that the point? Isn't the point of getting a perfect score? Lin Xiao could only say, clearly, being handsome is the point. Just kidding, a perfect score is only temporary, but being handsome lasts a lifetime. Besides, getting a perfect score in a competition is just basic for Lin Xiao. He doesn't care about compliments. The only thing he cares about is being praised for being handsome. Ahem, he's indeed handsome, but you and your girlfriend can discuss this in depth later. Okay, please sit down, Chen Song hadn't expected this man with thick eyebrows and big eyes to be so narcissistic, but he didn't bother to dwell on it. With a wave of his hand, he let Lin Xiao sit down and continued reading out the other students' scores. He didn't specifically ask this student to stand up while reading out the other students' scores. Clearly, he only wanted to get to know Lin Xiao and had no interest in getting to know the others. In this exam, besides Lin Xiao, the first-place finisher with a perfect score, the second-place finisher only scored a little over 100, and the third-place finisher even dropped to just over 90. The scores kept getting lower and lower. However, when the score reached 30, Chen Song stopped reporting. Apparently, there were still students with scores below 30, but Chen Song hadn't mentioned it to save their face. Okay, that's the results. The members of the training team and the auditors are all here. If you feel your grades aren't good, then work harder, okay? Then today's class will focus on explaining the exam. Professor Chen Song then began discussing the exam. There wasn't much to say about the exam. Lin Xiao hadn't even brought his exam, so there was no way to listen. Besides, it was boring because the problem-solving methods Professor Chen was discussing were all standard methods. He had considered them when he was writing, but they were so basic, requiring a lot of words and steps, that any ideas he came up with were rejected. He was lazy and generally used more convenient methods. So, he gave up the lecture and opened the abstract algebra textbook he had brought with him to continue studying. Having completed advanced algebra, he already had a foundation for understanding abstract algebra. Generally speaking, abstract algebra is taught after advanced algebra. However, there's no necessary connection between the two. Abstract algebra, also known as modern algebra, is closely related to group theory. It can be said that abstract algebra is a prerequisite for group theory, and group theory is also an important branch of abstract algebra. Therefore, entering abstract algebra means entering a deeper level of algebra, and the difficulty is naturally no less. After all, just look at the name, abstract, and you know how difficult it is. Just look at the masterpieces of the masters of abstraction, and how many people can understand them? Of course, while abstract algebra is difficult, it has also had a significant impact on all of modern mathematics and several other scientific fields, so its status is still quite high. As Lin Xiao continued to study, he gradually became absorbed and immersed in his study. As for the students around him, seeing him pull out a strange textbook, some briefly glanced at it, only to feel blinded. What's all this nonsense? Why can't I understand anything? Then he quickly averted his eyes and looked back at the blackboard, only to be met with even greater shock. Hey! Why is the blackboard full? Hey! Teacher, why are you wiping it? In the end, the unfortunate person could only lament. Everyone was a math genius, but there was clearly a difference between math geniuses. And so, Teacher Chen Song proceeded to the last problem. He didn't continue, but instead looked in Lin Xiao's direction and called out, Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao didn't respond. Lin Xiao, Chen Song called again. Only then did the student next to Lin Xiao nudge him, and he finally snapped back to his senses. He asked, bewildered, what's wrong? Teacher's calling you. Lin Xiao quickly stood up and said, Teacher. Chen Song shook his head helplessly, but he didn't dwell on Lin Xiao's absence. His class was meant to be a review, and Lin Xiao had earned a perfect score, so he had the unconditional right to skip class. Then he said to all the students, the last question on our exam was the hardest of the bunch, and only Lin Xiao got full marks. Yang, who came in second, scored 11 points. 5 other students received scores ranging from 10 points to 10 points. The rest of the students received no marks, and Lin Xiao's method for this question is very good, so I hope everyone will learn from it. Let's listen to how Lin Xiao came up with it. Lin Xiao rubbed his nose. He didn't bring his test paper. His steps were all written on it. And was the question really that difficult? He thought it was pretty easy. But since the teacher had called him up, he had no choice but to go. He still remembered it, so he could just recalculate it, no problem. So he stood up from his seat and walked to the podium. Chen Song handed him the chalkboard marker, but seeing that he didn't have his test paper, he couldn't help but ask, where's yours? I left it at the hotel. Chen Song, no test paper to class? Was Lin Xiao so confident he'd gotten a perfect score after the exam? But without the test paper, Lin Xiao probably couldn't write it. After all, the problem was quite lengthy, with a lot of calculations involved, and Lin Xiao wasn't sure he could remember everything. So he asked, can you write it? If not, You could explain your thinking. Lin Xiao waved his hand nonchalantly. Oh, no problem, it's no big deal. I'll just do it again. I'm pretty fast, and I still have some memory. Everyone was speechless. Just do it again? Okay, you're the boss, so start your show. Chen Song didn't say anything. Some math geniuses are like that. If they forget a theorem or formula, they just rederive it, and then they remember it. While Lin Xiao's repetition of such complex calculations was difficult, it wasn't necessarily impossible. So he stepped aside, anticipating Lin Xiao's performance. Lin Xiao took the pen and looked at the problem Chen Song had already written on the blackboard. Given a positive integer n, there are exactly 36 different prime numbers that divide n for k equals 1, 2, 5. Let Cn be the number of integers in k1, n/5, kn/5, that are relatively prime to n. Given that C1, C2, C5 are not completely identical, prove that 5, J, I, 1, C, Cj, 2 cap 36. I got it. After a quick glance at the problem and considering his own memories, he quickly said, everyone, what can you think of when you look at 5, J, I, 1? It's simple, the principle of inclusion and exclusion. So, let's use the principle of inclusion and exclusion to write an expression. Then he began writing on the blackboard, proof, let n equals p1 a 1 p2 a 2, p36 a 36. Definition, fn, equals. As he continued writing on the blackboard, more than half of the math geniuses in the audience were still confused. Master, what are you writing about again? Chapter 37, Roommate with Psychological Problems. Lin Xiao, of course, didn't bother to care what his followers thought. He just spoke his mind, and whether or not they understood depended on his own ability. Of course, a few people's eyes lit up. Right. The inclusion-exclusion principle, damn, the boss is truly a boss, his observations are incredible. However, their excitement was premature. Lin Xiao's next steps in applying the inclusion-exclusion principle left them all stunned. The steps were so complex that even if they had thought of them, they would have struggled to implement them. Of course, a few had thought of using the inclusion-exclusion principle, but didn't know how to proceed, and so they got stuck. As they watched Lin Xiao's next steps, their eyes gradually filled with admiration. Soon, Lin Xiao had reached a similar point, and then he said, based on the expression, we can use a generating function to perform this recursion. Hearing about the generating function, those few people's eyes lit up again. Right. A generating function. Why didn't I think of that when I wrote it myself? Their amazement grew even greater, and they felt a genuine admiration for Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao continued writing, discussing his thoughts as he went along. The students who were keeping up were immersed in the guidance of this genius, while those who weren't were already lost in confusion. Who am I? Where am I? What's the mysterious scripture written on the blackboard? This is a bit strange. We need to use cyclotomic polynomials. I don't know if you know a cyclotomic polynomial, but it's a polynomial with the smallest degree and the first integer coefficient that satisfies a primitive root of unity of degree n. Simply put, it means that in the result of factoring xn1, a certain polynomial fx, such that fx equals 0 is not a solution of an equation of the form xn1 of degree less than n. This is a bit off the beaten track, so don't worry if you haven't thought of it. Then let's use the cyclotomic polynomial to scale to the end. We're just a little bit short. We'll continue to use inclusion and exclusion to split it modulo 5, multiply the result by this matrix, and then use the power of 2 to become the generating function. We're almost there. Don't forget to add the constraints after writing it out. Lin Xiao finished writing, and the blackboard was almost completely filled. Glancing back at the process, finding it largely flawless, he meticulously wrote proof completed at the very end. Okay, done, Lin Xiao said, setting his pen aside. He couldn't help but sigh at the convenience of the blackboard marker. Chalk would have left his hands covered in dust. The students in the audience, who hadn't understood, burst into applause after hearing Lin Xiao's explanation. Awesome, even though we don't understand anything, we can still say 666, of course. The few who did understand were immersed in Lin Xiao's solution, absorbing the knowledge they'd missed. Some had already taken out their notes and started taking notes. Regardless of understanding, Lin Xiao's solution was worth studying carefully. Who knew they'd encounter this type of problem again? Yang, the second-place student with an 11, was particularly impressed. He couldn't even compare to his level. He even considered studying with Lin Xiao, hoping to receive his guidance. Chen Song, standing nearby and watching Lin Xiao, wasn't surprised by Lin Xiao's thought process. He'd already been amazed once before, when he'd looked at Lin Xiao's answer sheet. But he was still astonished. The speed with which Lin Xiao calculated the generating function was beyond even his own ability. This was the most complex part of the problem, almost reminiscent of a Ramanujan's formula. The generating function itself was complex, let alone this one. Even knowing how to use it wouldn't necessarily mean one could calculate it from start to finish. Lin Xiao not only did it, but he did it so swiftly that Chen Song could only describe it as fast, accurate, and ruthless. And what's the most important thing in mathematics? Besides so-called mathematical inspiration, the second most important thing is calculation. Arithmetic is the oldest, most fundamental, and most fundamental aspect of mathematics. As the art in its name implies, it's a technique. The deeper one's mastery of this technique, the greater their mathematical proficiency. Just like Euler's proof that the sum of all natural numbers equals -1/12, while the result was undoubtedly incorrect, creating such a plausible proof required exceptionally agile computational skills. In the end, Chen Song could only sigh inwardly, perhaps some geniuses truly defy common sense. He applauded, then gave Lin Xiao a thumbs up and said admiringly, "Well, Lin, very good, very impressive." Lin Xiao smiled and nodded, "Thank you, Professor, well, you deserve it." "Okay, now, leave." Chen Song nodded, then gestured. He had little else to say about a student like that. Lin Xiao didn't linger for long before leaving the stage and returning to his seat. As he walked back, he could feel the gazes of the people around him following him until he sat down. He sighed inwardly. While he was pleased that everyone was impressed by his talent, why wasn't it his looks? Perhaps Professor Chen Song had good taste and was able to deal with him, simply calling him a handsome guy. The next lesson, in which Professor Chen Song explained the process Lin Xiao had written down, began from the beginning. It was clear that many of the students present still didn't understand. After all, Lin Xiao wasn't a teacher, so he couldn't explain it in a way that everyone could understand. That was the role of Chen Song, the teacher. Of course, even with him explaining it, there were bound to be a few students present who still didn't understand. And even if they did understand, they'd find dealing with generating functions incredibly daunting. A single mistake could lead to problems, forcing them to go back and study on their own. As for Lin Xiao, he, with a quiet demeanor, picked up abstract algebra again and continued studying. Time passed quickly. That was how the morning's class ended. After lunch in the school cafeteria, Lin Xiao returned to his hotel room. As soon as he entered, Kong Huan followed. Seeing him come in, Lin Xiao smiled and greeted him. "Have you eaten?" This time, Kong Huan looked him straight in the eye, finally nodding. "Yes, what do you think of the cafeteria here? Is it delicious?" "Just okay. I recommend the hot pot meal on the second floor. It's pretty good, and it's all covered." Lin Xiao was a little surprised to see this person speak to him for so long, but then he said nothing. He was just being polite, as if he'd see him every now and then. Although Kong Huan was a bit too introverted, he couldn't just ignore him. What if he thought he was becoming more withdrawn by not talking to him? Quite a few young people today are like this, with a passive personality. However, among this passive personality, a considerable number crave attention. However, their passivity often makes it difficult for them to truly receive it, forming a vicious cycle that leads to even more passivity and even low self-esteem. So, maybe talking to them from time to time to show that you're not ignoring them can help them psychologically? Of course, that was limited to the 12 days they lived together. However, if Kong Huan was admitted to Peking University and also chose the Department of Mathematics, wouldn't they have a chance to become roommates then? Thinking of this, Lin Xiao couldn't help but look at Kong Huan a few more times. However, at this moment, Kong Huan took the initiative and said to him, "I'm actually here to audit the class. My food expenses can't be reimbursed." Lin Xiao was stunned. Kong Huan is an auditor? This was a bit surprising. He didn't expect to meet one of the 20 or so auditors. Then he smiled and said, "Is that so? That's good." However, Kong Huan then asked, "Will you look down on me because of this?" Lin Xiao was speechless. "My dear, it seems your mental health issues are quite abnormal." Chapter 38. People should not be afraid to change themselves. Brother, did you misunderstand something? Isn't it great to be able to attend the lecture as an auditor? At least it shows your family is willing to spend money on you. I remember it cost 6,000 yuan. Right, my dad is very rich. We live in the second ring road of Beijing. We have 2 buildings, more than a dozen apartments, and a courtyard house. 6,000 yuan is nothing to him. Lin Xiao, he felt a little reluctant to speak. You're going to be an autistic child alone. No, it should be an autistic rich second generation. But after a while, he said, that's right. Your family is so rich, I'm more than envious. How can I look down on you? Why do you think that? Kong Huan was silent for a moment, and finally, as if he wanted to open up, he let out a long sigh, returned to his bed, leaned against the headboard, and talked about the past. But his voice was still as low as always. My family has always told me this since I was a child: if I don't study as well as others, others will look down on me. They told me to study hard. Lin Xiao was speechless. Are all rich second generations so greedy? How could a child from a poor family like them get by? Could he just cheat? He couldn't help but ask, are your family so strict with you? Kong Huan nodded. Well, I'm the only son in the family. I've never had much time to myself since I was a child. I was either in school or studying at home with a tutor. I also took interest classes. But later, some tutors thought I didn't talk much and it was difficult to communicate, so they stopped teaching me. But then my family still asked me to study hard, so I had to study on my own. You really don't talk much? Lin Xiao shook his head, thought for a moment, and said, maybe your family has too many expectations of you making a name for yourself, but their methods are a bit overkill. Kong Huan nodded silently. Is that right? The room was silent for a moment. Kong Huan added, so I feel like I'm a lot like what people online say about depression. I don't dare commit suicide, but I feel like this is probably how my life is going to be. If it keeps going like this, maybe one day I'll figure it out, then figure it out now. Would that be good? I don't want to commit suicide right now. So the thing you mean by figuring it out is suicide? Is this what depression is? Lin Xiao said, but at least your grades are pretty good. The fact that you're here shows that you're good at math too. Well, apart from math, my scores in the other 4 subjects are definitely good enough to get into Jingde and Qinghua. I'm very interested in math, so I participated in the league and unexpectedly got in, and ended up joining our Shangjing City mathematics team. When my family found out, they assigned me a lot of math tasks and even invited several former CMO gold medalists and national math team coaches to tutor me, but I always have a feeling that I don't like them forcing me to study. I like to study on my own. When I'm forced to study, I feel depressed, so my math is getting worse and worse. I only got a perfect score on the exams the past 2 days. Lin Xiao thought for a moment and said, I see. You actually like a little freedom and don't want to be controlled, right? Can't you just bear it a little longer? You'll be going to college soon, and you can leave your family behind. Kong Huan shook his head and said, my family is in Shangjing, so I can only choose Jingde and Qinghua. My family won't accept any other schools. Study abroad? Your family is so rich, you can definitely go abroad. Right, I don't like going abroad. The environment is too unfamiliar, the culture is different, and I heard people like me would be bullied. Lin Xiao, he scratched his head. Was he supposed to provide psychological counseling to this rich second-generation kid with suspected depression? But what did he know about psychological counseling? But then, Kong Huan suddenly turned and asked, do your family care about you? Well, not really. My family used to think I just wanted to get into a top university. But after I got good grades and got into 985 University, they cared even less. So now you can not only get into Peking University or Tsinghua University, but you even have the opportunity to participate in international mathematics competitions. Maybe, Lin Xiao thought about it. Perhaps it was precisely because his family didn't care that he was able to focus on his studies. Just like he had been serious about his studies even before he got the system, otherwise he wouldn't have been consistently in the top 30 in the school. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sympathize with Kong Huan, and at the same time, he understood him. It's like a hobby and a job. When a hobby becomes a job, it loses its interest. In other words, Lin Xiao now truly views learning as a pure passion, so he doesn't feel constrained, or like Kong Huan, who might even experience the opposite effect. At this point, Kong Huan sighed and said, I envy you. If I were as talented as you, my family probably wouldn't control me so much. By the way, what do you think of studying while this way? What's it like, the experience? It's just being envied by others. Besides that, the biggest benefit is that I don't get stumped when doing homework, Lin Xiao said. Besides, there's nothing to envy. You envy my studies, and I envy your family background. Everyone has something that others envy, maybe. Silence fell again. Lin Xiao suddenly asked, by the way, do you have any faith? Faith? Kong Huan was stunned, then shook his head. I don't believe in anything. Can it be a goal or something? I don't have a goal either. I just do whatever my family arranges. Then you should set a goal for yourself. I don't know what a goal is. Then what are you interested in? Me. Kong Huan was stunned for a moment, lost in memories, and finally said, I like computers. Computers? Then tell your family, isn't this a good hobby? They think I'm doing it for the sake of playing games, but what I actually want to learn is. Kong Huan glanced at Lin Xiao and finally said, actually, hacking? Lin Xiao was in awe. Amazing. I wanted to be a hacker before, but I didn't know how to find tutorials, so I gave up. Then he said, then go be a hacker, but my family doesn't let me touch the computer often, and I don't want them to know that I'm learning hacking technology. I'm afraid they'll think it's not good. It doesn't matter. You can choose your major in college. If you study computer science, your family can't stop you, right? I'm afraid they will refuse. Hearing Kong Huan's words, Lin Xiao couldn't help but feel helpless. This fear of his family made him feel that he needed to correct it. So he suddenly shouted, brother. The sudden voice startled Kong Huan. Lin Xiao sat up from the bed, looked at Kong Huan, and said seriously, everyone has to fight for themselves at least once in their life. What's more, what you want now is to fight for the right to make free choices, so for your goal, you should stop caring about what you are afraid of and change your attitude. People can be afraid of death, but they should never be afraid of changing themselves. Recommend a book. Chapter 39 Friends. Some people, like our soldiers, our police officers, our firefighters, and so on, need to live for others. Similarly, we should live for our loved ones, but for you, you must first live for yourself. Your family should all be very successful people. They can interfere with your growth because they can provide you with a good future, but they cannot control you or even deprive you of any right to make choices. At least, your right to choose your life path should not be deprived. You want to be a hacker, that's your goal, and I believe you can succeed. You're so good at math, of course you have a chance to achieve it. So in order to achieve this goal, you must first embark on this path, so you have to fight with your family for this opportunity. If your family agrees, just ignore what I said. But if they say no, then argue with them. Don't be afraid. Just think of it this way, you're an only child. Can your father beat you to death? If he can't kill you, then just do it. When I was a kid, I fought with my dad just to go out and play. So what if he beat me? I still succeeded. Not to mention that you're going to study computer science. Computer science is such a great major, so popular. Your dad wouldn't want you, someone who could qualify for the CMO competition, to study business administration, would he? Besides, your family's already rich. We live in the second ring road, we own a house, and several buildings, and, at this point, Lin Xiao was jealous again, and we even have a courtyard house. Wouldn't you just lie in bed all day? Oh, forget it. I'm too lazy to tell you. Think about it. With that, Lin Xiao collapsed onto the bed, his face drooping with despair. What was he worrying about? He was a wealthy second generation with a fortune of at least 1 billion yuan. This wasn't something someone like him, earning 0 yuan a month, should have to worry about. Oh, he should be making over 1 million yuan a year now, with the bonuses from Jinchang City and Shangjing University combined. It's just that it's only for this year, and he hasn't received any of that money yet. Kong Huan, observing Lin Xiao's expression, suddenly forced a smile onto his previously expressionless face. He'd figured it out. Of course, it wasn't a suicide he'd contemplated, but rather a realization of what Lin Xiao had said. Besides the fear of death, he also shouldn't be afraid of changing himself. He needed to overcome his long-standing habit of simply obeying his parents' orders. He needed to fight for himself. Then, he looked at Lin Xiao and said, Lin Xiao, thank you. Without even looking up, Lin Xiao extended his hand and gestured okay, acknowledging his understanding. Kong Huan hesitated, then continued, actually, few people used to be willing to talk to me so much, because I never initiated conversations. But after they did, they probably thought I was boring and stopped. You're the only one who talks to me every time you see me. Of course I should Lin Xiao waved, raising his arm. Then why did you take the initiative to talk to me today? Because you got a perfect score on the test. I admire you so much, and I wanted to understand why you were able to do that. I know. That's the goal. When Lin Xiao told him to make becoming a hacker his goal, he suddenly understood why he had been so muddle-headed in the past. At this time, he asked, by the way, what is your goal, me? Lin Xiao still did not stand up, but turned his head slightly to glance at Kong Huan, and then said, it should be to find the truth of our universe. This is the mission given to him by the system. Find the truth of the world. Kong Huan suddenly felt puzzled. But isn't that difficult? It should be. Lin Xiao thought for a moment. Anyway, it's up to you to set any goal. I have 3 goals in mind, big, medium, and small. What goals? Big goal, realize communism. The Internacional will definitely achieve it. Medium goal, serve the motherland and overthrow imperialism. Small goal, earn 100 million first. That's a bit mundane. Maybe become a scientist, or start as a mathematician. That's a smaller goal and easier to achieve. Of course, I also hope that education in China will be more equitable in the future. Like your place in Beijing, you have excellent educational resources. I hope my hometown can reach at least half, 1/5 of that level. After hearing Lin Xiao's goal, Kong Huan said calmly, you can definitely do it. Lin Xiao finally sat up in bed. Seeing Kong Huan's serious expression, he couldn't help but say, I was just saying it casually, then maybe you can achieve it. Lin Xiao scratched his head and said, don't be like that. I'll get cocky. You also believe I can achieve my goals. Lin Xiao was stunned for a moment, then smiled. That's true. Then, I wish us both success. You'll be the world's top hacker, and I'll be the world's leading scientist. Yes, Kong Huan nodded. Becoming friends is a strange thing, but it often takes a chance. And so, Lin Xiao and Kong Huan became friends. Although Kong Huan still acted reserved with others during class, he was able to talk to Lin Xiao about many things. This showed that Kong Huan truly longed for a friend. Although they had only been together for 3 days, a conversation like that could make even strangers friends. Lin Xiao's initial intention was simply to let this person know that he wasn't neglecting him. This was Lin Xiao's attitude towards people. But later, seeing his personality, he said something that seemed like a revelation, hoping he would wake up. Now, he hadn't expected to gain such a sincere friend. And, in parentheses, a particularly wealthy one. Later, he saw just how wealthy Kong Huan truly was. For example, Kong Huan treated him to a meal at a Western restaurant outside the school, spending a few hundred yuan. They then went shopping, and Kong Huan insisted on giving Lin Xiao a pair of shoes worth thousands of yuan. This left Lin Xiao speechless, and he immediately began to reason with Kong Huan. True friendships aren't maintained with money. You've always heard that money can't buy true feelings, and friendship is one of them. Fortunately, Kong Huan was receptive and gave up on the idea. Their training continued as usual. If he had trouble with a math problem, he would ask Lin Xiao, and Lin Xiao would tutor him. Within a few days, their relationship deepened, almost reaching the point where they'd casually tell dirty jokes and share secret codes. However, Lin Xiao doubted whether this sweet boy, Kong Huan, understood. Chapter 40. I'll give you some questions. The post-exam training camp lasted 8 days. Initially, Lin Xiao attended classes diligently. Whether he paid attention or not was another matter. But then he realized many of the team members weren't attending. It was mostly just the auditors who paid their own way. So, after 3 days, he stopped going. Of course, the camp also provided study rooms, where students could study daily. There were also math teachers present, so anyone with questions could ask them. However, Lin Xiao was just reading, with nothing much to ask, so he simply stayed in the study room, enjoying the quiet atmosphere. However, he didn't look for the teacher, so the teacher wandered around the room and finally found him. The teacher in charge of the study room was Su Hongbing, a mathematics professor. He walked over to Lin Xiao and glanced at the boy, known as the genius of the geniuses among math geniuses. This student was quite famous within the team, so it was no surprise that he knew Lin Xiao. But this student was actually studying abstract algebra. Abstract algebra is not easy. Although it wasn't taught at school, he knew that the failure rate for abstract algebra was always high, as students who failed advanced algebra often also failed abstract algebra. Did you understand it, huh? Lin Xiao snapped out of his trance. then saw the teacher standing next to him and called out, "Teacher Su." He replied, "Not bad, I understand it. Did you read the advanced algebra?" "I finished it." "Not bad." Su Hongbin nodded approvingly. Such a mathematical prodigy was truly not wasting his talent. If Lin Xiao, now so dominant in math competitions, forgot about striving for progress, his future achievements would clearly be limited. Only through continuous learning and improvement can a genius's talent be fully realized. Otherwise, he would undoubtedly end up like Hong Gaiwang. Su Hongbing thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll give you a problem." "Do it." Lin Xiao nodded. "Obedience is worse than respect. You're still being flowery," Su Hongbing quipped with a laugh. Then he took Lin Xiao's pen and began writing on his scratch paper. Although he didn't teach abstract algebra, he had taught advanced algebra before, so the problem was quite simple. Let n order square matrix F be the friend matrix of a polynomial. Prove that the only square matrix commutative with F is a polynomial of F. Go ahead. After finishing, Su Hongbing handed the pen to Lin Xiao. The problem he had set was on the higher end of the difficulty spectrum. He wanted to test Lin Xiao's advanced algebra knowledge and see if he could replicate his unstoppable performance in the Olympiad. Furthermore, there was a key point regarding the friend matrix. He wanted to see how well Lin Xiao grasped this obscure aspect, or if his knowledge was broad. What surprised him was that after just a minute of thought, Lin Xiao didn't even ask him what a friend matrix was, and then he started writing, "Proof, let V be an n-dimensional linear space, and Greek letter epsilon 1, Greek letter epsilon 2, be a set of bases. Let Greek letter psi be a linear transformation of V, so that the matrix of Greek letter psi in the basis Greek letter epsilon 1, Greek letter epsilon 2, is F, that is, Greek letter psi, Greek letter epsilon 1, Greek letter epsilon 2, equals, Greek letter epsilon 1, Greek letter epsilon 2, F because F is a friend matrix, Greek letter epsilon 2 equals Greek letter psi, Greek letter epsilon 1, Greek letter epsilon 3 equals Greek letter psi, Greek letter epsilon 1, equals Greek letter psi, and 1, Greek letter epsilon 1. That is. Seeing Lin Xiao's first two operations, Su Hongbing gasped. Could he actually use linear spaces and linear transformations so skillfully? Even in advanced algebra, this knowledge is difficult. He used to be very cautious when giving such questions, fearing that he would stump his students. Moreover, he hadn't expected Lin Xiao to come up with this method so quickly. Most students would solve using standard unit vectors. He couldn't help but sigh in admiration. This student is truly remarkable. No wonder he performed so well in the Olympiad. He was simply born for math. With his heart racing, he simply watched Lin Xiao write. Before long, Lin Xiao reached the final step. So C equals, Ni equals 1, Si 1 F, I 1, E 1, Fe 1, Fe 1, F, N 1, E 1, equals, Ni equals 1, Si 1 F I 1. Therefore, C is a polynomial of F. Proof complete. After writing the last two words, stroke by stroke, Lin Xiao put down his pen. Seeing he had finished, Su Hongbing said, "Very good, very well done." Lin Xiao smiled and said, "It's not too difficult, actually." "It's nothing, Su Hongbing, you think it's not too difficult?" Lin Xiao nodded and said truthfully, "It's indeed not too difficult. I actually just finished studying advanced algebra a few days ago. If I can do it, it shouldn't be that difficult, right?" Su Hongbing, he sensed contempt from the students before him for his problem. Moreover, Lin Xiao even said that he had only just finished studying advanced algebra a few days ago. "You just finished it?" "Yes, self-taught, self-taught. Didn't you have a teacher?" "No," Lin Xiao said. "There's no such thing as university math tutoring in my hometown. Before I competed in the mathematical Olympiad, I didn't have any intensive training." "Oh, that's right. Our school had a month-long math league training course before the mathematical league." Hearing Lin Xiao's words, Su Hongbing was even more incredulous. Lin Xiao actually taught himself everything? He had originally assumed that Lin Xiao had a teacher and was naturally talented. Perhaps a mathematical genius's teachers didn't contribute much to their achievements, but mathematical geniuses are invariably guided by a teacher. Newton, for all his prowess, was taught by Professor Lucas of Cambridge University. The title isn't a specific person, but an honorary position held by a recognized scholar, and only one professor can hold it at a time. This speaks volumes about the strength of Newton's teacher. Einstein's teacher, on the other hand, was none other than Minkowski. The renowned Minkowski space-time theory holds a significant position in mathematical physics and is closely linked to Einstein's later theory of relativity. Therefore, Su Hongbing found it incredible. Lin Xiao, despite living in such a limited educational environment, still displayed such a strong mathematical talent. True gold always shines. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel sorry for Lin Xiao. If he had a good teacher, Lin Xiao would have soared to new heights. Wouldn't he have made the emo team in junior high? But then he realized that Lin Xiao would soon be entering university. As expected, Lin Xiao would likely choose one of those two schools. This way, he wouldn't have to worry about Lin Xiao's future. Such a talent would definitely not be overlooked in college. Of course, as a teacher, he maintained the best wishes for every student. Putting that aside, how could he tolerate being underestimated? As a professional math problem setter, he had been invited to participate in the problem-setting committee for CMO and college math competitions, which was why he was invited to tutor these students. So, he said, "You're self-taught, then. Very impressive, very good. I believe you'll achieve even greater success in college. How about this? I'll give you a few more difficult problems later. When you're ready to leave, pick them up from the podium." Okay, Lin Xiao nodded. Thanks to the Buck friend Lin Xiao for the 500 starting coins reward, and thanks to the Buck friends Extreme, Zia Shuixing, the fat cat who loves snacks, and 20170728194229879 for the 100 starting coins reward. Thank you for your support. Chapter 41 accidentally created a world problem. Teacher Su's problems would take time, so Lin Xiao continued reading his book. Time passed quickly, and around 9 o'clock in the evening, Lin Xiao checked the time. It was time to return to the hotel, so he stretched, began to clean up his desk, and prepared to leave. As he reached the door, he remembered Teacher Su had promised him some difficult problems. However, it seemed Teacher Su had just left the study room for something and hadn't returned yet. But he must have already finished the problems, right? Lin Xiao walked over to the podium and took a look. Indeed, there were several sheets of paper with problems written on them. There were also a pile of scratch paper, filled with various equations, quite a lot of them, but many of them were marked with large crosses. Did Teacher Su encounter a problem? Lin Xiao pondered for a moment, but then ignored it and picked up the scratch paper with the problems. He glanced at the first sheet. There were problems on both sides, 4 in total, mostly from advanced algebra, dealing with determinants, matrices, and other subjects. He then quickly glanced at the 2 sheets of paper at the back. The second one also had 4 problems, while the third had only 1. Lin Xiao didn't care what they were, as long as they weren't draft paper, it was fine. He then found another sheet of paper nearby and wrote on it, "Teacher Su, I've taken the problems you gave me. I'll see you tomorrow night." Lin Xiao. He then left the classroom. Not long after, Su Hongbing returned. He walked to the podium and saw the note Lin Xiao had left. He smiled slightly. He had racked his brains to come up with those problems, including some he had written for math competitions before. He wanted to see if Lin Xiao could solve them. He even looked forward to the boy coming to him tomorrow night and complaining that the problems were too difficult. Shaking his head, he stopped thinking and turned over the disk again. He wasn't idle here. As a mathematics professor, he also worked on some problems. Recently, for example, he was working on a world-class problem, whether the Fibonacci sequence has infinite prime numbers. The prime number problem has long been a topic of discussion in mathematics. Famous conjectures such as the Riemann hypothesis, the Goldbach conjecture, the twin prime conjecture, and the Mersenne prime distribution are all related to prime numbers. While seemingly insignificant, this purely numerical game has nevertheless captivated pure mathematicians. Su Hongbing's question, whether the Fibonacci sequence contains infinite primes, may not be as well known as Mersenne primes, but a successful proof would undoubtedly cause a stir in the mathematical community and be of great benefit to him personally. For example, Liu, the student who proved the Sidapin conjecture, graduated and was directly appointed a full professor at South China University at the age of 22. Therefore, the potential benefits for Su Hongbing if he were to complete the proof remain unknown, especially since the field of number theory, to which this problem belongs, is a field of considerable interest to many mathematicians. Clearly, he has been working on it for days without any clear solution, as evidenced by the wasted draft paper on his desk. However, Su Hongbing's question now wasn't how to prove the problem, it was, where was his problem? He searched for papers on his desk and discovered that the one with the Fibonacci sequence and the question about whether there are infinite prime numbers was missing. Where had his problem gone? Could it be? Su Hongbing had a funny thought. Had Lin Xiao mistakenly thought he had written the problem and taken it? It was quite possible. He shook his head, thinking of it as a surprise for Lin Xiao. Oh, no, it should be a shock. Of course, that was assuming Lin Xiao could finish it. He had given 8 difficult problems that he was very satisfied with. The first 4 would definitely be the final questions on a college advanced algebra exam, and the last 4 would definitely be competition-level problems, especially for math majors. If Lin Xiao could finish them all before tomorrow night's study session, he would eat the desk in front of him. And all the scratch paper. If Lin Xiao couldn't figure it out and came to him, Su Hongbing would comfort him, telling him it was okay, explaining that this showed him the importance of having a teacher. He would then advise him to study hard with a teacher after entering university, and not to isolate himself. He believed that Lin Xiao would follow his guidance, and his future prospects would undoubtedly be even more limitless. Thinking of his plan, Su Hongbing nodded in satisfaction. He was definitely a good teacher. He then stopped thinking and found another piece of scratch paper. He wrote down the expression for the Fibonacci sequence, then added the question, are there infinitely many prime numbers? Then, he began to try to solve the problem again. In Lin Xiao's room at the hotel. This teacher's problem is quite interesting. It's quite difficult. Lin Xiao looked at the problem Su Hongbing had given him, lost in thought. He had already finished the 4 problems on the first sheet of paper and was now working on the second. However, the difficulty had suddenly increased significantly, and he felt the difficulty for a moment. If he'd known this problem was worthy of a college math competition, he wouldn't have been so troubled. Even facing such a difficult problem, he needed time to think. After all, the depth and breadth of university math, as well as the breadth of knowledge, demanded a certain level of understanding from students. So, after about 5 minutes, he finally came up with an idea. It took me 5 minutes. That's ridiculous. He shook his head, then began writing down his thoughts. Indeed, 5 minutes was already considered quite challenging for him. Otherwise, like the problem Su Hongbing had given him during self-study, he'd only needed a minute to solve it. Anything longer than 3 minutes was considered quite difficult. What are you doing? Kong Huan, who was also studying, asked him. But Lin Xiao was so engrossed in his studies that he didn't notice what he was saying. Seeing Lin Xiao didn't respond, Kong Huan, curious, came over to Lin Xiao and took a look. After a glance, he quietly went back. Sure enough, he'd better be a hacker. Math wasn't something he should be concerned about. Time passed quickly, and it was already 11:30. Lin Xiao, who had been working on the questions, finally breathed a sigh of relief and put down the second piece of paper. Looking at the time, Lin Xiao couldn't help but feel that Su Hongbing's ability to set questions was really amazing. It took him an hour and a half to finish these 8 questions. The first 4 questions took him only 20 minutes, and the last 4 questions took him 70 minutes. Especially these questions seemed to be made up by Su Hongbing on the spur of the moment. Not every teacher can come up with so many difficult questions casually. But it's finally finished. It's worthy of me. After sighing in his heart, Lin Xiao picked up the third piece of paper. The piece of paper with only one question on it. It was written on it, let the first 2 terms of the sequence Fn be 1, let Fn3 equals Fn1 plus Fn2. Is there an infinite number of prime numbers in the sequence Fn? Every time I refresh the background and see the recommendation votes, I feel the fighting spirit to write. 3 updates today. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Difficulties. After reading the problem, Lin Xiao's expression suddenly turned serious. This problem was difficult. And not just difficult. They actually asked him to prove that there were infinite prime numbers in the sequence? Proving that there were infinite prime numbers in natural numbers was easy enough, but proving that there were infinite prime numbers in this sequence was far more complex. Whether there were infinite prime numbers in a sequence was almost a random event, making it incredibly difficult. Lin Xiao couldn't help but ponder. Teacher Su had given him an advanced algebra problem, right? But this problem didn't look like one for advanced algebra. It was clearly number theory, and of course, number theory could be solved using algebra. So was it polynomials? Matrices? Space or linear functions? The problem the teacher had given him couldn't be some unsolved mathematical problem, could it? It was definitely solvable, just a little difficult. So, he pondered for 5 minutes, performing simple calculations on scratch paper. To do this, he first had to identify the pattern in the sequence. Lin Xiao listed the first few terms of the sequence 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Seeing this sequence, he was suddenly stunned. This sequence seemed familiar. A quick thought struck him, isn't this the Fibonacci sequence? No wonder he'd felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the general formula. The Fibonacci sequence, named after the 12th century Italian mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci, is defined recursively in mathematics, after the zeroth and first terms are 0 and 1, respectively. Each subsequent term is equal to the sum of the previous two. The zeroth term is a special term and therefore not included in the sequence. You might think this sequence seems unremarkable. It's such a simple rule, isn't it? I can create a sequence too. For example, call it the Zhang-San outlaw sequence, where the first 3 terms are 1, and each subsequent term is equal to the sum of the previous 3. Or, perhaps, the first 4 terms are defined in a certain way. However, the Fibonacci sequence is unique because it's not that simple. Also known as the golden ratio, the value of the previous term divided by the next term increasingly approaches the golden ratio, or 0.618. Furthermore, this sequence also exhibits numerous coincidences in nature. For example, the spiral arrangement of sunflower seeds follows the Fibonacci sequence in 99% of cases, and the growth pattern of tree branches also follows this sequence. Consequently, many mathematicians have devoted their research to the Fibonacci sequence. However, this Fibonacci prime number problem. Lin Xiao was torn. Wasn't this really an unsolved mathematical problem? But this was a problem the teacher had given him. Could Teacher Su be deliberately tricking him? Or perhaps he had picked up the wrong problem? Shouldn't he just search on his phone? But then he thought, what if the problem had already been solved? Would that mean he knew the answer in advance? For him, even a glimpse of a clue could be a huge help in solving the problem. Lin Xiao didn't know this was truly an unsolved problem. He didn't study the Fibonacci sequence, so knowing the general formula was enough for him. How could he possibly understand these minor details? Furthermore, the problem wasn't particularly well known. The only unsolved mathematical problems generally known to Chinese middle school students were the Goldbach conjecture. Because a Chinese mathematician named Chen had solved the 1 plus 2 problem within the Goldbach conjecture, it was included in math textbooks and taught to Chinese elementary and middle school students for publicity purposes. As for more famous mathematical problems, such as the Riemann hypothesis, the BSD conjecture, and the Hodge conjecture, not many elementary and middle school students knew about them. Lin Xiao was torn about how to approach this problem. But then, a flash of inspiration struck him. This problem was on the 3rd sheet of paper. The first sheet of paper was clearly easier than the second, so the 3rd sheet must also be harder. The problems on the 2nd sheet were already difficult enough, so it was only natural that the 3rd sheet, with only one problem, would be even more difficult. The logic was easy to understand. Lin Xiao immediately stopped worrying and felt a deep respect for Professor Su Hongbing. His ability to control the difficulty of the various questions was truly remarkable. He truly deserved to be a mathematics professor. He stopped overthinking and continued to work on his ideas. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 10. An endless storm was brewing in his mind, the synapses at his nerve endings releasing neurotransmitters at a high rate, sending his brain into deep motion. Suddenly, an idea struck him, if it were a polynomial. He immediately began writing on his scratch paper. He began by writing the general term as n, and 1, and 2, equals 0. Then we can use the method of solving the second-order linear homogeneous recursive relationship. Then its characteristic polynomial is, the characteristic polynomial is, Greek letter lambda minus 1 equals 0, we get Greek letter lambda 1 equals 1/2, 1 plus 5, Greek letter lambda 2 equals 1/2, 1-5, that is, n equals C1 Greek letter lambda 1 n plus C2 Greek letter lambda 2 n, where C1 and C2 are constants. We know that A0 equals 0, A1 equals 1, so, The final solution is C1 equals 1/5, C2 equals -1/5. Here, we introduce the prime number theorem, Greek letter pi, x equals lix, plus ox, cln x, x, where lix equals. Having written this, Lin Xiao once again fell into deep thought. Next, he would try to combine the two. As long as they could be combined, he would have completed the proof. The prime number theorem is clearly based on the conclusion that there are infinite prime numbers. As long as the two can be contained, and the area of both is infinite, then the conclusion can be reached. Proving the larger one naturally completes the proof of the smaller one. But obviously, combining the two and finding the connection between them is not easy, and more complex processing is required. We need to transform them into another form. The relationship between them is too far apart now. Lin Xiao rubbed his chin, pondering how to transform them into equivalent forms. Just then, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Lin Xiao? Lin Xiao, he came to his senses and looked beside him. It was Kong Huan. What's wrong? Lin Xiao asked. It's almost 12 o'clock. Aren't you going to bed yet, huh? Is it already 12 o'clock? Lin Xiao realized how late it was. Even if he didn't rest, Kong Huan would need to rest too. So, he could only temporarily give up his thoughts and nodded, okay, I'm going to rest. Then he closed the draft paper and went to wash up. After washing up and returning to bed, he was still thinking about how to prove it next. However, gradually, he fell asleep. There was no choice but to fall asleep as soon as he hit the bed. Chapter 43 Sage State. The process of solving unsolved problems is the process of developing new mathematical methods. Using old methods to solve mathematical conjectures is a coincidence, but using new methods to prove mathematical problems will add vitality to the mathematical community. This is what every mathematician strives to do. Do you understand? To be honest, it is true. Then, Lin Xiao, I hope you can continue to advance on this path. Lin Xiao suddenly felt his consciousness return to darkness. Strictly speaking, it was not darkness, but simply because his eyes were closed. He wanted to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt numb, or perhaps his upper and lower eyelids were stuck together, making it difficult to open them. Of course, with a little effort, it should be fine. He rubbed his eyes, feeling a little better, and climbed out of bed. He yawned, remembering that he had just had a dream. It seemed like it was teacher Ding Ping who was imparting the knowledge, but it also seemed like it was the math teacher from the science class, or maybe Professor Chen Song, Professor Su Hongbing, or someone else. He couldn't quite recall the details, but he did remember a bit of the teaching. It was roughly about how solving difficult mathematical problems requires trying to invent new mathematical methods. Using existing mathematical methods to solve unsolved problems doesn't necessarily mean the problems have any value. It simply means you've stumbled upon an undiscovered corner. But over time, that corner will eventually be discovered by future generations. While this situation resolves a regret for the mathematical community, it doesn't improve it overall. Mathematics remains largely unchanged, with no innovation emerging. It could even degrade some members of the community. Some students might be working on the exact same problem you're researching, but you solve it, and their research, even their graduation thesis, that they've spent countless years on is now lost. Lin Xiao found this statement quite plausible. As the most fundamental subject in all scientific research, mathematics needs to continue to develop so that it can offer more applications to the world. However, Lin Xiao didn't dwell on the matter. He still had to prove that the Fibonacci sequence had infinite prime numbers. It wasn't an unsolved problem. Solving unsolved problems wasn't something a typical student like him, who wouldn't reach adulthood for another month or so, should be considering. Soon, he finished washing up, and Kong Huan woke up. He had to go to intensive training classes. After all, he had paid to come, and skipping classes would be a waste. For Lin Xiao, attending classes was unnecessary. He wasn't interested in those classes. They were all about mathematical Olympiads, and mathematical Olympiads weren't his problem anymore. Afterward, he and Kong Huan went to the restaurant downstairs for breakfast. Back at the hotel, they checked the time. It was just before 8:30, still early, but Lin Xiao didn't waste any time. He sat down at his desk and continued working on the problem from last night. Following the ideas he had come up with before bed, he immersed himself once again. But even so, after trying various methods, he still found the problem too difficult. It felt like there was an insurmountable gap preventing him from combining the two equations he had formulated the night before. For the first time, he felt a sense of disorientation. This was the first time he'd encountered such a thorny problem since acquiring the system, especially since it was set by his teacher. His thoughts began to swirl, and he fell into a frenzy of thought. Should I use Baidu? Forget it. That would be a lie, and I'd be embarrassed to explain it to Teacher Su later, but this is too difficult. He'd been thinking for 3 hours, he'd even finished a day's worth of CMO exams, and now he hadn't come up with a single idea. Oh, I remember truth points can be used to solve these problems, right? Lin Xiao suddenly remembered, and mentally asked, System, how many truth points are needed to solve this problem? System, based on the host's current math level, level 1, this problem requires 3 truth points, 3 truth points, and I have 4.2 truth points right now. Isn't that just right? But then Lin Xiao suddenly realized that using truth points himself wouldn't be any different from copying the answers. He slapped his head. Lin Xiao, stop thinking about getting something for nothing all day long. How will you ever find the truth in the future if you do that? Don't overthink it. At worst, I can just honestly admit to the teacher tonight that I don't know the answer, but then again, a problem like this actually requires 3 truth points. Those truth points aren't worth wasting. Muttering to himself, Lin Xiao pulled himself together and began to think about a solution. But in the end, he couldn't find a good solution, except for scribbling a bunch of meaningless equations on a piece of paper. Lin Xiao scratched his head, feeling a little frantic. If only my brain development could be improved a little more, huh? Brain development. Lin Xiao suddenly remembered that the system had previously rewarded him with something called Sage State, which increased his brain development by 50%. Yet, I actually forgot about that. Lin Xiao slapped his head. He had never encountered a problem that took him more than 10 minutes to find a solution, so he had forgotten about it. His current brain development level was 2.75%. This, Sage State, would increase it by 1.375%, effectively bringing it to 4.125%. That's a significant increase. If even with 4.125% brain development, he couldn't solve this problem, then there was no point in learning. After all, this was just a question the teacher had given him. Lin Xiao perked up again and silently chanted, Activate, Sage State. The system voice chimed in, Sage State, activated. Current remaining time, 5 hours. Once used, it cannot be paused, can't be paused. Lin Xiao frowned at this, but then a sense of clarity washed over him. It was an incomparably comforting feeling, as if he'd understood the expansion of the universe. Is this the world above 4%? Truly, marvelous, Lin Xiao sighed inwardly. Without wasting any time, he returned to his draft paper, and his thoughts suddenly flowed like a spring. Right. You can try what Euclid proved originally, that prime numbers, odd numbers, and even numbers will alternate infinitely, and then, Lin Xiao's eyes lit up slightly, and then he looked at the problem with a fierce look in his eyes. I still don't believe I can't handle you. Thanks to Xian Qianru Xingai for the 1,866 book coins. Thanks to Yuan Yuming for the 1,500 starting coins. Thanks to Momo Kanchu, Wuli Papaya for the 500 starting coins. Thanks to Di Xianbin for the 100 starting coins. Chapter 44 Proof of Completion. Time slowly passed as formulas and numerical symbols emerged from his pen. Lin Xiao, having entered his sage state, truly became a sage, and inspirations occasionally surfaced in his mind. He quickly reviewed nearly everything he had learned, continuing to search for the key to solving the problem. But even at this point, the problem wasn't so easy to solve. I've reached the last step, but there's still something missing. Lin Xiao felt like he had reached the final bottleneck. The distribution of prime numbers in the Fibonacci sequence must have a relationship. Oh, right, 0.618, the golden ratio. Lin Xiao's eyes suddenly lit up, but then his brow furrowed again. No, my knowledge isn't enough. I need more, or perhaps some other method. Lin Xiao slapped his head. I can't always use the same knowledge. I need new knowledge. Then, he pulled another piece of scratch paper from the side and continued to think. A new method, a new method. What new method could solve this problem? Oh, right, analytic continuation. He suddenly remembered this knowledge he'd learned before, but not much, because it belonged to the theory of complex variables. He'd only briefly glanced at the table of contents of a book on complex variables and hadn't yet begun studying it. He did, however, have some knowledge of analytic continuation, primarily from Euler's Joseph to prove that the sum of all natural numbers equals -1/12. His comprehension was quite strong, and even with just a quick glance at the proof, he already had a grasp of the method. Furthermore, analytic continuation is related to the Riemann zeta function, a function that can reveal the distribution of prime numbers and is closely related to the Riemann hypothesis. However, Lin Xiao didn't dwell on it. Thinking of this possibility, he set to work. Time passed once more, and lines of equations gradually appeared on the paper as his pen moved. His 4.125% brain development allowed his mind to more easily connect to even the most intangible. Just like that, he discarded one draft after another, and also kept another. At 1 p.m., Kong Huan returned. He'd been in class and studying all morning, so he'd eaten late and had only just returned. Seeing Lin Xiao still sitting at his desk, with a pile of draft papers beside him and a large pile on the floor, a look of admiration and emotion crossed his face. This was the undisputed champion of the competition. Faced with such a superb student, even admitting defeat was a given. He quietly walked up behind Lin Xiao, not disturbing him, glanced at his writing, and then quietly walked away. He became even more determined to become a hacker. The math world needed Lin Xiao, not him. Compared to Lin Xiao, he felt like he'd learned math like a dog. He also noticed how easily Lin Xiao could get into a steady state. Whenever he saw Lin Xiao start studying, he'd almost completely forget everything around him. He envied this state of mind, but only regretted that he couldn't match it. After that, he didn't bother Lin Xiao and returned to his own studies. Time passed again. Lin Xiao had entered sage state at 11 o'clock, so by 4 p.m., sage state was finally coming to an end. The system voice rang out, "Sage state time has ended." Lin Xiao suddenly felt that his state of unparalleled clarity of thought had ended, and his associative thinking had slowed down noticeably. However, the problem was no longer serious. Picking up the draft paper in front of him, Lin Xiao's face lit up with satisfaction as he looked at the brand new function written on it. This function was derived through analytic extension and a series of complex transformations, which also incorporated knowledge he had learned from mathematical analysis. This function was closely related to the Fibonacci sequence and also resonated with the prime number theorem. In other words, the bridge is finally built. Lin Xiao's eyes lit up with satisfaction. Next, it's time to build the bridge. As everyone knows, a bridge is first built and then placed on its piers. Of course, building a bridge is the most difficult part of engineering, but in mathematics, building a bridge is difficult, building a bridge is easy. So, he continued writing on his scratch paper, connecting the equivalent equations he derived previously with this new function. Lemmas 3 and 4, from equations 5, 7, and 8, we get, from this, we can see that f(x) and Greek letter pi, x, are completely equal in their domains. According to the infinity of prime numbers, it's easy to see that there are infinite prime numbers in the sequence Fn. Proof completed. Writing the last two words stroke by stroke, Lin Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. Done. Finally done. This problem is incredibly difficult, he sighed, and at that moment, the system's pleasant voice rang out. Congratulations to the host for proving the infinite existence of prime numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. Considering your performance in this proof, rewards, plus 100 math experience, plus 4 truth points, and a health capsule. The physical reward, the health capsule, can be redeemed at any time. It can eliminate all external forces within the body and strengthen it. System reminder, learning requires a healthy body. Your health is everything. Congratulations to the host for advancing your math level, currently at level 2, 66/250. Hearing the system's flurry of voices, Lin Xiao was stunned. Just solving this problem actually resulted in a direct reward of 100 experience points, and an unexpected 4 truth points increase as well. That's a huge win. Even using truth points to solve this problem would only require 3. Also, what is this health capsule? Is it a physical object? The system actually gifted me something physical? But he'd leave that question for later. Seeing that his math level had finally reached level 2, he immediately asked himself, "System, how much has my brain development improved?" Upgrading a single subject to level 2 increases brain development by 0.2%. 0.2, Lin Xiao nodded. This meant his brain development had now reached 2.95%. But then he thought again, even after using sage state, It had taken him so long to solve a problem like this at 4.125% development. His 2.95% didn't seem that impressive. He shook his head helplessly. It seemed he still had a long way to go before he could become a true mathematician. If it had taken him so long to solve this problem, how much more brain development would scientists of Yang Hunting's or Einstein's caliber have? He stopped dwelling on it. He was still a long way from even reaching those great minds. Then he checked the time. 4:30 p.m. Wait. It's already 4:30. Lin Xiao suddenly felt his stomach protest. A pounding sensation, his chest pressing against his back, made him crave food for the first time in his life. Come to think of it, aside from a quick hotel breakfast around 7 o'clock this morning, he'd been completely absorbed in studying since then. He quickly cleaned up the table and rushed off to eat. I felt everyone's enthusiasm yesterday. Please step up your game today. Thank you so much. Chapter 45. Su Hongbin couldn't believe it. It was 6 o'clock in the afternoon, back in the study room. After a hearty meal, Lin Xiao arrived with his proof, which had filled over 20 pages of draft paper. Teacher Su Hongbin hadn't arrived yet. It was still early, so he'd probably gone to lunch. When Lin Xiao arrived, he didn't see many people in the room. He remembered the health capsule the system had rewarded him with, and silently chanted, "Extract, health capsule." Then, he felt something in his hand. Startled, he opened his palm to see a blue capsule. He was immediately struck by disbelief. This thing had appeared out of thin air? Where had it come from? Did this violate the law of conservation of energy? Lin Xiao was momentarily stunned. But since the system had it all figured out, there seemed no point in dwelling on it. But is this the health capsule? Looking at the capsule, it seemed to be able to eradicate all external forces within the body. Could all external forces within the body refer to all illnesses? After all, it was called a health capsule. Furthermore, it could also provide a certain level of physical strengthening. Could it make the body stronger? After a moment's thought, he pulled his cup from his school bag, placed the capsule in his mouth, took a sip of water, and swallowed it. He carefully sensed his internal state but didn't notice any changes. Perhaps the capsule shell hadn't dissolved yet, and perhaps the drug still needed some time to take effect. He breathed a sigh of relief. This was science. What medicine in the world works instantly after taking it? Anesthetics take a while to take effect. He'd thought it was like the medicine in fantasy novels, taking it and taking effect instantly. He stopped thinking about it and decided to just wait for it to take effect. He then took out the draft paper with the proof and went through it again, checking for any errors. Otherwise, he'd be embarrassed if the teacher caught him later. However, after going through it again, he found no mistakes. His immersive state had enabled him to think rigorously, making any logical or computational errors unlikely. Most importantly, the system had approved his work, so it must be fine. He then checked the previous 8 algebra problems. When he finished checking and found no problems, Teacher Su finally returned to the study room. Lin Xiao raised his head and looked at Teacher Su. Su Hongbin smiled at the boy, wondering how Lin Xiao did on the questions. He didn't know which question he had trouble with. This study room is open all day, and Lin Xiao hadn't been here all day, which meant that he had probably encountered a difficult problem. Su Hongbin nodded in satisfaction. His ability to set questions hadn't diminished. At this time, he also saw Lin Xiao get up from his seat and walk over, but what puzzled him was why Lin Xiao brought a stack of papers over. However, he only thought about this question briefly, and Lin Xiao had already walked to the podium. Su Hongbin stopped dwelling on it and said with a smile, "How was it? How did you feel about the questions I gave you yesterday?" Lin Xiao was the first to sigh. "Too hard." Su Hongbin burst out laughing and said, "It's understandable that they're hard. You should have no problem with the first 4 questions, but the ones after that are all college math competition level problems, and they're from math majors. After all, you're self-taught, and you didn't have much time to study on your own. It's understandable that you find them difficult and can't solve them." "Huh?" Lin Xiao was stunned, then said, "Teacher, it is indeed difficult, but it was question 9 that was particularly difficult. Of the first 8 questions, the first 4 were no problem at all. I finished them in about 20 minutes. Questions 5 through 8 were indeed quite challenging. They took me nearly 70 minutes, he then said with relief. So the questions after that are all college math competition questions. No wonder they're so hard, especially the last one. It must be the finale, right?" Watching him sigh, Su Hongbing had only one big question in his mind. What the hell was question 9? Did I even give question 9? Maybe Lin Xiao was wrong? Also, Lin Xiao said he spent 20 minutes on the first 4 problems, but 70 on the last 4. So, he finished them in an hour and a half? He was stunned. 20 minutes for the first 4 problems was fine, but 70 for the 4 competition problems he'd given. Was he kidding? Shouldn't he have failed on one? He couldn't help but ask again, "You finished?" All of them. Seeing Su Hongbing's surprise, Lin Xiao smiled and nodded. Yes, all of them. He figured Su Hongbing's surprise was understandable. After all, they were competition problems. It wasn't surprising for a teacher to be surprised that a high school senior like him could solve them. Su Hongbing looked at Lin Xiao and nodded again. Suddenly, he felt like he had encountered something extraordinary. He quickly waved his hand and said, "Show me how you solved those 8 problems." 8 problems? Hearing Su Hongbing's words, Lin Xiao pulled out the first 2 sheets of paper from the stack and handed them to Su Hongbing. These 2 sheets of paper contained the first 8 questions. Su Hongbing picked up the first sheet. The 4 questions on it were easy, and after a quick glance, he was sure that Lin Xiao had gotten them all right. That was no big deal, as he quickly flipped over to the second sheet. As he studied, he pulled out his glasses case from his pocket, removed them, put them on, and continued to study diligently. The questions on the second sheet were more difficult, taking him an hour to figure out. 2 of them were variations of his own previous questions, so he needed to carefully review Lin Xiao's process. After a while, after confirming that the last question was also correct, he finally put the sheet down, his shock unwavering. He also recalled what he had said last night, that if Lin Xiao finished all the questions, he would eat the draft papers. And what about the table in front of him? His face flushed. He had thrown away the pile of draft papers, but what about the table? Never mind. He was the only one who knew about it, and if only God and the earth knew it, it was as good as no one else. So he consciously changed the subject to avoid feeling awkward. He praised, "Amazing, truly amazing, your talent is so high. I doubt any student in the past 10 years could match yours." Although he had no idea what Teacher Su was thinking, hearing him praise him like that, Lin Xiao scratched his head and said modestly, "It's nothing, actually. I was still stumped. You finished all the problems in an hour and a half. How can you say you were stumped? Don't be so modest for a day. Even I, a professor, feel defeated by you." Lin Xiao touched his nose and said, "Teacher, I didn't finish all the problems in an hour and a half. I started working on them last night, and after a nap, I finished around 4 this afternoon." Su Hongbing was stunned. "So you said it took you 90 minutes, Lin Xiao couldn't help but wonder. Did the teacher hear him clearly? He replied, "I finished the first 8 questions in 90 minutes, and the rest of the time was spent on question 9. It probably took me 9 hours to finish it." Hearing Lin Xiao mention question 9 again, Su Hongbing was bewildered. Question 9, yes, Lin Xiao nodded again, showing Su Hongbing the 20-plus pages of draft paper he had in his hand. "Just for question 9, I wrote so many pages?" Su Hongbing was confused. "I didn't give you question 9, I just gave you the first 8. Lin Xiao was also confused. "Didn't you leave me 3 pieces of paper?" That question was on the 3rd piece of paper, the one. As Lin Xiao said this, Su Hongbing suddenly remembered that he did have another piece of paper last night, which Lin Xiao had also taken. Then, he and Lin Xiao said at the same time, "Prove that the Fibonacci sequence has infinite prime numbers." Ah. Chapter 46, you say. Right, Lin Xiao nodded again. Seeing the puzzled look on Su Hongbing's face, he asked, puzzled, "Didn't you leave that problem for me?" Su Hongbing waved his hands repeatedly. "You must be joking. That's an unsolved problem in mathematics. How could I possibly leave it to you?" Wait, with that, Su Hongbing was suddenly shocked. "Yes, it's an unsolved problem in mathematics. What did Lin Xiao say before? He solved it?" He stared at Lin Xiao, his eyes wide open, and said in disbelief, "You said you wrote it down." Lin Xiao was also stunned when he heard Su Hongbing's words. "Huh? I accidentally wrote down an unsolved problem in mathematics? Are you kidding?" He looked at Su Hongbing's glaring eyes and asked cautiously, "Didn't you leave this problem for me?" "I saw it on the desk," Su Hongbing said irritably. "What do you mean by left it for you?" "I left it for myself. I've been thinking about this problem for years now when I have nothing else to do. That's why I only left you 2 sheets of paper with 8 problems, not a 9th one. Lin Xiao rubbed his nose, then scratched his head. This was a bit surprising. No wonder. I was wondering why this problem was so difficult. It took me 9 hours to solve it. Su Hongbin nearly spat out blood. You took me 9 hours? Do you know how much time I spent? 3 years. Do you know how much time I wasted in those 3 years? At least 90 hours. You only took me 9 hours, what the hell? Of course, Su Hongbin didn't immediately believe Lin Xiao had truly completed the proof. Every year, countless amateur scientists claim to have proved the Goldbach conjecture. Some even attempt to seek verification from professors at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, leading to the CAS having the gatekeepers hand over a few math problems, demanding these amateur scientists get them correct before they're allowed in. Of course, Su Hongbin didn't think Lin Xiao was a complete amateur. The previous 8 problems had already proven Lin Xiao's ability. Furthermore, he'd solved the 4 competition problems in just 70 minutes, something none of his own students had managed. So how many amateur scientists could possibly do that? If an amateur scientist could get it right, he probably wouldn't be a complete amateur. He simply suspected there might be some flaws in Lin Xiao's proof, though Lin Xiao hadn't noticed. After all, the stack of draft paper in Lin Xiao's hand was thick, at least a dozen or 20 sheets. There was a high probability of overlooked errors. So, he extended his hand and said to Lin Xiao, "Let me see how you proved it." Lin Xiao handed the draft paper to Su Hongbin. Su Hongbin didn't rush to look at it. Instead, he glanced up at Lin Xiao and reminded him, "But before that, are you sure you want to give it to me directly?" Lin Xiao asked doubtfully. "Huh? Teacher, isn't that okay?" Su Hongbin said, "If you really complete the proof, then your proof method will be visible to me. If I publish the paper first using your method, then the honor of proving that the Fibonacci sequence has infinite prime numbers will belong to me. Even if you later claim you did it, no one will believe you. After all, you're a student and I'm a math professor, and I have many friends who can prove that I've been working on this problem." Lin Xiao was stunned, then smiled and waved his hand, saying, "Teacher, since you said so, I'm sure you wouldn't do that." Su Hongbin shook his head with a smile. "That's true. Okay, then I appreciate your trust. But I still have to say, whether you succeed or not, I definitely wouldn't do that. Also, you should know that if you do succeed, the honor you'll receive will be incomparable to even the first place in the EMO." Lin Xiao nodded. "I know. Thank you, teacher." He was certainly no fool. He understood the significance of solving an unsolved mathematical problem. After all, these unsolved problems had been studied by countless mathematicians, yet they remained unwavering. This clearly demonstrated their difficulty. Perhaps the problem he solved wasn't particularly prestigious among the unsolved problems in mathematics, nor was it well known or difficult, but that clearly didn't mean it was unworthy of attention. Solving any unsolved problem would attract widespread attention and inevitably bring with it countless honors. As for the EMO gold medal, dozens of people around the world win it every year. While it might be a great honor for an individual, it pales in comparison to the annual output of dozens of such medals. Su Hongbin nodded slightly, saying no more. Then he turned his attention to the sheaf of draft paper, briefly flipping through it, taking a quick look at Lin Xiao's proof. It was extensive, and quite complex. As for the specific knowledge used, Su Hongbin wasn't sure, but he couldn't help but admire Lin Xiao. He had achieved this level of skill solely through self-study. What amateur scientist could achieve such a feat? 2 days ago, he'd seen an old classmate share a brilliant amateur scientist's theory. It suggested that since people only die from falling from high places, this meant that gravity is greater at lower altitudes, and therefore, closer to the center of the Earth, gravity is greater. This was truly ridiculous. Putting his mind off the amateur scientist, Su Hongbin flipped to the last page and saw Lin Xiao's proof completed. He then flipped back to the first page and asked, "What were you thinking? How could you possibly prove it in 9 hours?" Lin Xiao rubbed his nose and said, "I figured it was your assignment, so I gave it a try. Halfway through, I almost figured out the solution, and I accidentally succeeded. I was worried you'd criticize me for using other knowledge in your advanced algebra problems." "Su Hongbin, you can criticize me, I was wrong." Lin Xiao chuckled. "How dare I?" Su Hongbin didn't bother to say anything more and began to study intently. Initially, upon seeing Lin Xiao link the prime number theorem to the characteristic polynomial of the Fibonacci sequence, he nodded approvingly. It was a good idea, but figuring out the relationship between them was a much more complex process. Sure enough, the next 20 or so pages were devoted entirely to figuring out how to connect the two equations. Su Hongbing delved deeper and deeper, putting his scratch paper on the table, finding a new one, and following Lin Xiao's process. He flipped through the pages, his gaze growing increasingly astonished. He couldn't find a single error in his calculations or logic, until half an hour later. Su Hongbing gently put down his pen, as if remembering he could breathe, took a deep breath, and then said to Lin Xiao, "You, thanks to book friend 150,212,054,923,185 for the 100 Kidian coins reward." Chapter 47 Su Hongbing's Advice. You, after saying the word you, Su Hongbing paused again, finally shaking his head and sighing, before placing Lin Xiao's draft paper back on the table. Honestly, he felt like crying, even a little sour. He had just set the problem last night, intending to teach Lin Xiao a lesson, but the next day, he came back and found Lin Xiao bashing him. He'd been working on it for 3 years. 3 years. Do you know how he'd managed those 3 years? He lost countless hairs. If no one had ever completed the proof, it would have been fine, but now Lin Xiao had done it so casually. Did that mean all his 3 years had been wasted? But there was nothing he could do. Faced with such an unreasonable genius, he could only accept the truth. Regardless, he was completely impressed by Lin Xiao's abilities. Not only had he self-taught university knowledge, he also used it to solve this unsolved problem. While it wasn't a world-famous conjecture, it ultimately convinced a mathematics professor. Lin Xiao's method was still limited to the knowledge he had previously learned, which Su Hongbing also possessed. However, Lin Xiao's ability to apply mathematical knowledge, combined with his natural mathematical talent, was unmatched by Su Hongbing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be working on the problem-setting team and would have long since become a renowned mathematician like Jiu Chengtuang or Chen Zingshan. Such a mathematical genius, no, rather, a prodigy, was an unattainable figure and a tragedy for other mathematical prodigies of his generation. However, for China, such a mathematical prodigy is a source of national pride. Just like Liu, who, at such a young age, achieved something others could never achieve in their lifetime, earning him nationwide publicity. China desperately needs such gifted students who can command both international and domestic attention. Especially since Lin Xiao is only 17 years old. Not even an adult yet. Su Hongbing couldn't help but revisit his thoughts from last night. He'd actually considered stumping this student, teaching him the importance of having a mentor. Now, it seemed like sheer nonsense. Who knows, once Lin Xiao arrived at university, the professors and their colleagues would probably treat him like a patron saint. When he achieved something truly groundbreaking, they'd try to curry favor with him, hoping he'd put his name on it, or even steal his accomplishment. Of course, Su Hongbing wouldn't do such a thing, he had his limits. Meanwhile, Lin Xiao, perplexed, watched his teacher Su put down his proof and looked at him with a shifting gaze, even sighing. What was going on? Was there something wrong with the proof? He whispered. Teacher, what's wrong? Su Hongbing replied, nothing, just a few thoughts. Then are there any problems with my proof? No, at least I don't see any. Su Hongbing said, you can consider publishing your paper directly, or you can ask other mathematics professors specializing in number theory for advice. Publish a paper. Lin Xiao was stunned when he heard Su Hongbing's words. He had never imagined that he was at the point where he could publish a paper. After all, as a high school student, he had never been exposed to academic matters. He only knew that universities required publication of papers. Yes, your work can definitely be published in a Zone 1 mathematics journal. Zone 1, you know? Those are C journals with an impact factor ranking in the top 5%. C journals are based on the Science Citation Index, and Zone 1 C journals are internationally renowned. Will that be a hassle? Lin Xiao asked. It's troublesome, yes. The review process usually takes a long time, and you have to translate it into English. Su Hongbing smiled and said, but, although it's troublesome, you have to understand that for an undergraduate, if you can publish in C paper, you'll be ahead of more than 99% of your peers, and you'll have a good chance of getting into graduate school. And you're only a senior in high school. Can you guess how much advantage you can gain by publishing a paper right now? By the way, which university are you going to? Tsinghua University or Peking University? Peking University, Lin Xiao replied, and at the same time, Su Hongbing's words also caught his attention. If he published a paper like this now, wouldn't Peking University give him tens of thousands of yuan more? Suddenly, he was motivated. Su Hongbing then said, "As for Peking University, that's perfect. You could contact them and tell them you've submitted a paper, hoping they can use their connections to contact the journal's editorial department for you. That should speed up the review process. After all, the review times for those first-tier journals are often quite long, and they might reject your paper outright after seeing your age. Alternatively, you could ask a professor at Peking University to review your paper. I'm not a number theory researcher, after all, so I can't tell if there are any problems with your paper." Lin Xiao nodded. "I understand. Thank you, teacher, haha, it's okay. It's a blessing to have a student like you. However, I hope you can maintain this eagerness to learn in the future and continue to strive for breakthroughs. Don't rest on your laurels," Su Hongbing warned. "Your achievements are enough to sustain you for the rest of your life, but that would be a waste of your talent. You're very talented, so you should study even harder. You're only in your third year of high school now. Once you get to college, you'll have more time to yourself. That period will also be the time when you'll grow the most. I hope you won't be idle then. Everything should be used to its full potential, especially talent. Think about it, is it better to be the temporary pride of China, or to be the eternal pride of China, like Mr. Huo Luojian? So, I also hope that in the future, I can hear that you have achieved one achievement after another, rather than hearing from you no more." Did you remember? Hearing Su Hongbing's advice, Lin Xiao was moved and nodded again. "I remember. Thank you, teacher." Su Hongbing smiled and waved his hand, saying, "It's nothing, I'm just reminding you. As for what you decide in the future, it's still up to you." "Yeah," Lin Xiao responded, then smiled and said, "Actually, I'm quite interested in mathematics. If possible, I also want to become a mathematician in the future, no need for later. You are already a mathematician now, and a very accomplished mathematician. Please give your support again. Thank you." Chapter 48 Closing Ceremony of the First Stage Selection. Although he had planned to publish a paper, writing it was still a challenge for the inexperienced Lin Xiao. He didn't even know the key words in the abstract, let alone the references. He also had no idea which mathematics journal to submit to, so he needed to research all the relevant information. Of course, Su Hongbing was very concerned about this. After adding Lin Xiao on WeChat, he forwarded him an article that provided guidance on how to write a paper from scratch and recommended a journal. For an achievement like proving the existence of infinite prime numbers in the Fibonacci sequence, it was obvious that only the top mathematics journals could publish such a result. After all, countless mathematicians had stumbled upon this problem before. Who could say that even Fields Medal winners hadn't spared 9 hours of their free time to study it? Apparently, no one had yet completed the proof. And how long had the Fibonacci sequence existed? 1202, 2018, is a full 816 years away. That means the problem has also existed for 816 years, several times longer than the Riemann hypothesis. Of course, the mathematical community wasn't aware of the problem that long ago. Regardless, this achievement is unmatched by the combined achievements of several or even dozens of ordinary mathematicians. Therefore, the journals Su Hongbing recommended to Lin Xiao are the 4 top mathematical journals: Annals of Mathematics, Advances in Mathematics, Acta Mathematica, and the Journal of the American Mathematical Society. These 4 journals hold a significant position in the global mathematical community, and publishing a single paper in them is a significant honor. In China, only a few dozen articles have been published independently in these 4 journals, and their authors are all renowned Chinese mathematicians. This clearly demonstrates the difficulty of publishing a paper in these 4 top journals. The sit-up-in conjecture that Liu solved, while also a conjecture, leaned towards mathematical logic, or combinatorial applications, rather than mathematical theory. Furthermore, it was less well-known and not particularly difficult, so it couldn't be published in the 4 top journals. Of course, his paper was cited by these journals, demonstrating that his achievement was recognized. As for whether Lin Xiao's work could be published in the 4 top journals, that's not a big deal. His work, which deals with number theory and prime number problems, is a subject of interest to most top mathematicians. It's certainly worthy of publication in a top journal and might even spark interest among mathematicians working on prime number problems. And who knows, it might even provide some insights for mathematicians studying the Riemann hypothesis. After all, These problems all deal with the distribution of prime numbers. Moreover, Su Hongbing, after reviewing Lin Xiao's proof, was impressed by its exceptionally creative approach. His method for constructing the function in the final step was particularly ingenious. When other mathematicians saw it, it would undoubtedly inspire them, and even Su Hongbing himself was impressed. Su Hongbing could already foresee that Lin Xiao's paper, once published, would spark a nationwide debate, and within the mathematics community as well. For Lin Xiao, Su Hongbing had undoubtedly done him a great favor. Without the information Su Hongbing had sent him, it would have taken him quite some time to finish this paper. Now, however, things were much easier. He would first prepare the Chinese version of the paper, then translate it into English. He would then ask Su Hongbing to revise it and check for formatting errors and other issues. Su Hongbing also suggested that he contact a professor at Kyoto University for further assistance. After all, Su Hongbing admitted that his mathematical skills were still not as good as those of the Kyoto professors. What if there were still some issues in Lin Xiao's proof that he hadn't noticed? Lin Xiao naturally followed Su Hongbing's instructions. He also learned about the first, second, and corresponding author roles. He offered to give Su Hongbing the second author role, but Su flatly refused. Su Hongbing considered himself a good teacher, so he couldn't afford such a request. He hadn't contributed to the paper, so how could he even ask for an authorship? Lin Xiao didn't say anything about Su Hongbing's refusal, simply remembering the man he had only known for a few days. He was grateful to God for such a good teacher, otherwise, who knows what he would have been like. Over the next few days, Lin Xiao continued studying abstract algebra, finding time every day to finish this paper and take the selection exams. Time passed quickly. On January 9, 2018, the final 2 selection exams concluded, and on the morning of January 10, the closing ceremony for the first phase of the national team's training camp officially began. The closing ceremony was held in the auditorium of the No. 1 affiliated high school of East China Normal University. Many people attended, not just the 60 training team members and the 20 or so observers, but also school leaders and representatives from the China Mathematical Society, totaling around 120 people. The first item of the closing ceremony was the one everyone was eagerly anticipating. Standing behind a podium decorated with flowers, the vice president of the China Mathematical Society faced the audience with a broad smile and said, "Next, we will announce the team members who will advance to the second phase of the training selection, along with their average scores from the first 2 exams." Almost everyone in the room held their breath, awaiting the next name. The training team members were especially nervous, eager to learn if they would make it to the second phase. Finally, the vice president called out the first name. First place, Lin Xiao, average score 126. At this name, some applauded, and soon everyone else followed suit. Traditionally, the names were announced one by one, with no need for applause. However, Lin Xiao truly impressed the teachers and students present. This first-place finish was truly well-deserved, with no luck involved. So, they all applauded Lin Xiao from the bottom of their hearts. Furthermore, Lin Xiao's average score astounded everyone. The full score on the exam was 126, and his average across the 2 tests was 126. Doesn't that mean Lin Xiao also scored 126 on the previous 2 days? Truly the greatest talent of all time. Their applause grew even louder. Thank you to Momo Kenshu and Wooly Pippi for the 500 Kidian coins, and to Urhain for the 100 Kidian coins. Thank you for your support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Why is Lin Xiao a god? Lin Xiao, observing the situation and the glares from everyone, felt compelled to express his gratitude. So he stood up and bowed to everyone around him in gratitude. Several students nearby shouted, "Master Lin! Master Lin! Master Lin!" Forever Master. Many of these booing students had asked Lin Xiao questions in the past few days. Regardless, they all found Lin Xiao quite approachable, so these math geniuses were willing to call him Master Lin. The teachers present were amused and embarrassed, and Lin Xiao helplessly pointed at them, signaling them to stop calling him Master Lin in such a serious situation. Of course, despite the solemnity of the situation, no one blamed him. The vice chairman on the stage also looked on with a smile. Almost everyone in the Mathematics Society's management had heard of Lin Xiao's name. The more students like him there were in China, the better, as long as they didn't end up going abroad. Soon, Lin Xiao sat down, and the vice chairman read out the second name, second place, Yang Sheng, average score 115. The applause at this point seemed somewhat scattered, but Wu Yang didn't feel unbalanced. After all, he had asked Lin Xiao questions, and while the two, one in first place and the other in second place, were naturally competitive, Lin Xiao never cared about such things and answered every question. As a result, he had a good impression of Lin Xiao and was also willing to call him God Lin. After that, the vice chairman continued to call out the other names, and no one applauded. During this round of applause, only Lin Xiao enjoyed the thunderous reception of the entire audience. Soon, all 15 names were read out, and to Lin Xiao's surprise, Sun Yu, also from Qin province, had advanced to the second round of selection. As expected, Sun Yu's talent was also not to be underestimated. Lin Xiao also took out his phone and sent him a well wishes on QQ. After all, since everyone was from Qin province competing in the competition, they were all from the same hometown. If he could make the 6-member national team, it would mean 2 people from Qin province would have made the national team. For Qin province, this would be a historic event. After receiving Lin Xiao's well wishes, Sun Yu sent him a message in return, expressing his gratitude and adding, "Master Lin, it's up to you to perform from now on." Seeing Sun Yu's message, Lin Xiao smiled slightly and replied, "We'll see. As for what the performance would be, next, we'll invite our student representative, Lin Xiao, to the stage to share his learning experiences and offer encouragement to everyone. Everyone, give him a round of applause." The vice president finished, then applauded and looked at Lin Xiao in the audience. The others applauded again, welcoming Lin Xiao to the stage. Lin Xiao stood up from his seat and walked towards the podium. The day before yesterday, he was asked to give a speech at the closing ceremony and was asked to prepare a speech. When he received this task, he was overwhelmed. Why did he have to go on stage to speak? But there was no way. The organization had already made the decision, and he could only face it head-on. However, he was also prepared for what to say. When he came to the front of the stage, the vice president smiled and gave him a thumbs up, then made room for the microphone. Lin Xiao walked to the podium, looking at the more than 100 people present across the flowers on the table. It was the first time for him to give a speech from this perspective. However, it would probably not be the last time. He took out the speech manuscript from his arms. As for impromptu speech, he didn't have the mind to do it. He had to study and finish his thesis every day. It was good enough if he could write a speech. He didn't have time to memorize it. He didn't pretend to be forced to do this. After glancing over the manuscript, he began, "Dear teachers and dear classmates, I'm honored to be here to deliver this speech. The teacher who asked me to give this speech told me to first share my learning experience. As for learning experience, here's my take. Everyone has their own learning methods. My experience might not be entirely suitable for everyone. We're all participating in a math competition here. Well, math, practice more, write more, and cultivate mathematical and logical thinking. You'll learn what you need to learn, of course. You've all heard this stuff from your teachers. If you insist on hearing my experience, then I'll share it. My experiences," as everyone held their breath, eager to hear how this genius of a student had achieved his prowess. Lin Xiao replied, "I just read some books and learned the basics. Then I did some exercises and learned the problem-solving methods. I pretty much got it right, I guess. Then I expanded my knowledge. For example, the last question on my first exam involved cyclotomic polynomials, which is also a knowledge point." Upon hearing Lin Xiao's experience, the entire audience fell silent. "Are you just showing off, Mr. Lin, or are you serious?" "I'm serious," Lin Xiao added. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Who here doesn't read the book first, then do the exercises? So why are you so good? Anyway, well, that seems to be Lin Xiao's experience. Just read the book, do some random exercises, and you'll know it all. Why is Lin Xiao a god? This learning experience perfectly explains it. It's that even though everyone does the same thing, the gods always come out ahead. Su Huangbing, also in the audience, felt the same way. Otherwise, how could Lin Xiao have easily solved all the problems he posed? even solving the unsolved problem of whether the Fibonacci sequence has infinite prime numbers. No one else could have done it, only Lin Xiao. On stage, Lin Xiao, after sharing his experience, offered some encouraging words. It was a routine, too. He simply did a quick Baidu search and then went on stage. Again, he just didn't bother to figure it out. He finished his speech and returned to the stage. After a few more events, the closing ceremony concluded. It was time to go home. Back at the hotel, the Qin provincial team leader began helping Lin Xiao and Sun Yu pack their luggage, beaming as he said to them, "You guys are incredible. Our Provincial Mathematics Society heard you both made it to the second round of trials, and they're already trying to figure out how to honor you tomorrow." Lin Xiao couldn't help but wonder, will it take too long? Unlike Sun Yu, he didn't just return to Zhejiang. After arriving today, he would have to stay in Zhejiang for another night. Tomorrow, he would have to transfer from Zhejiang to Jincheng, a several-hour drive. Don't worry, it won't be long. Your travel expenses back will be reimbursed. If that doesn't work out, we'll just arrange a special car to take you back. The team leader patted Lin Xiao on the shoulder and said, "You're the best. You're our province's greatest hope for making the national team this time." Lin Xiao smiled, then patted Sun Yu on the shoulder and said, "Old Sun is also awesome. I think both of us can make it." The team leader glanced at Sun Yu, then smiled and said, "That's right, you both have a chance. You are the most proud talents our Mathematics Society has had in recent years. Okay, pack your things and get ready to go. We'll be at the high-speed rail station by about the same time." The editor asked me to control the amount of updates during the new book period. I can only wait until it's on the shelves before I can burst into action. I will resume updating twice a day before it's on the shelves. Thank you all for your support. I'm very grateful. Chapter 50 Return to Qin Province. Just as he was about to leave, Lin Xiao suddenly remembered that he had a book in his room and said, "Wait a minute, I still have one." Lin Xiao quickly ran upstairs and returned to his room, where he saw a middle-aged couple standing inside, talking to Kong Huan. Seeing him back, Kong Huan asked, "Hey, aren't you leaving yet?" "I forgot my book." Lin Xiao ran to the headboard of his bed and rummaged through his pillow, finding his abstract algebra book underneath. Kong Huan then said to the middle-aged couple, "Dad, Mom, this is Lin Xiao, the one who always gets first place on the exams." Were these two Kong Huan's parents? They actually had time to come pick him up? But considering this was Shanghai, if his family had a big business, they'd probably come here often. Lin Xiao glanced over and saw that Kong's father looked quite dignified. Perhaps this was the confidence that came from owning a courtyard house in the second ring road? Lin Xiao called out, "Hello, Uncle and Auntie." Kong's father and mother were quite cordial with outsiders. They nodded and said, "Hello, Lin." Of course, it was just a greeting. For wealthy people, seeing those so-called overseas returnees was like seeing a high-quality worker, let alone Lin Xiao, a pre-18-year-old academic ace with only slightly better grades. Who knew what his future held? But Lin Xiao glanced at Kong Huan and saw how he couldn't breathe in front of his parents. He decided to help him, so he said to Kong's father and mother, "Uncle and Auntie, Kong Huan is a very talented person and a very obedient child. But sometimes you should also listen to his own thoughts and opinions. That's what's truly good for him." Hearing Lin Xiao's words, Kong Huan looked up at him, his eyes expressing gratitude, and something within him seemed to be activated. Kong's parents were stunned. They hadn't expected Lin Xiao to say such a thing. They were about to ask him a few questions, but Lin Xiao immediately said, "Then I'll be leaving now. See you later," and then he slipped away. After all, they were the parents, and he was a junior. It was inevitable that they would be angry if he accused them of having inappropriate parenting methods. He then returned downstairs and, along with the team leader and Sun Yu, set off back to Qin Province. Time passed quickly, and the news of the conclusion of the first round of selection spread to the relevant individuals and schools. Schools whose students had made it to the second round naturally celebrated, and those who had heard the news also engaged in discussion. For example, on a certain forum on a certain platform, someone started a discussion, "How do you evaluate the first round of selections for the national mathematics team this year?" A question was posted on a certain platform, and someone answered it below. The first 2 days of exams were incredibly difficult, while the last 2 days were moderately difficult, but still a bit harder than the CMO questions. This commentary discusses the difficulty of the exam questions, because after the exam papers are released, they'll be shared with the public, allowing those interested to try them out and give it a try. I just want to say, Lin Xiao is the eternal god. This person is most likely one of the contestants, otherwise we wouldn't have known there was such a Lin Xiao this year. And there are quite a few people discussing this reply. Who is Lin Xiao? The same Lin Xiao who took first place in both the league and CMO this year. How amazing is he? It's not a question of whether he's amazing or not. He's truly the Dre type. He studies like he's on speed, solves problems like he's using cheats, and his mathematical thinking is 10 times stronger than Viagra. This Lin Xiao is truly insane. I've never met anyone like him. Just tell me how amazing he is. Let me, a poor student, see for myself. Wow, how amazing is he? He's the god of math competitions. He gets full marks on every exam from the league to the first round of selections. He hasn't lost a single point. Really? Holy crap, so awesome. Could I be kidding you? Actually, it's just a bit awesome. Nothing to brag about. Still not worth bragging about? You managed to get full marks from the league all the way to the national team trials. Oh, nothing to brag about. It was pretty easy, Lin Xiao muttered to himself. He was the one who replied not worth bragging about. Probably none of those netizens had any idea that there was actually someone hiding there. He'd just stumbled upon this by accident, and first marveled at the impressiveness of the big data push. Then he took a look and saw that quite a few people were discussing him. Since he was so modest, of course he had to say something, but he didn't expect the responses to come so quickly. Shaking his head, he didn't want to dwell on it anymore and put down his phone. He glanced out the window and saw that he had already entered downtown Jincheng, almost reaching his home. He'd arrived in Zhejiang a little after 9 last night, and had spent the night at the hotel arranged for him by the Mathematical Society. This morning, he'd attended a small commendation ceremony. Many leaders from the Qin Province Mathematical Society were present, showering him and Sun Yu with awards and other accolades. However, what struck Lin Xiao as rather uninteresting was that they offered no prizes, merely lip service and encouragement to keep up the good work. They probably wouldn't receive any rewards until they actually made the national team. After all, the second round of selections, held in March, would select the final 6 from the remaining 15. After the meeting, the Qin Province Mathematical Society arranged a cart to take him back to Jincheng. Since it was a private car, it traveled quickly on the highway, so the trip took just over 3 hours. Lin Xiao was quite pleased with the result. A bus would have been a bit daunting and prone to motion sickness. Soon, the car arrived at his doorstep. Thank you, Lin Xiao thanked the driver, then shouldered his backpack, grabbed his own suitcase, and headed home. Mom and Dad were still at work, so no one was home. As for school, classes were still in session, but as a triumphant returnee, he had the unconditional right to skip classes, even though he'd actually requested leave. Let's finish that paper first, Lin Xiao thought to himself, then went into his study, turned on his computer, and resumed translating his paper. He'd previously used his phone to work without a computer, but now with a computer, his efficiency had significantly increased. Proof of the existence of infinite prime numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. Abstract. This paper primarily studies the distribution of prime numbers in the Fibonacci sequence and proves that there are infinite prime numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. That's all the abstract is, right? Lin Xiao pondered it for a moment, then dismissed it and continued with the next steps. Thanks to Ha Heyo for the 1,000 Kidian coins, thanks to Tian Yunmeng for the 500 Kidian coins, and thanks to Prisoner Without a Car, crossing the hill and finding no one waiting for the 100 Kidian coins. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.